Hello, everyone. Here's your favorite Queen Bee SP coming back to you with a really good friend of mine, somebody I've known for 40 years, believe it or not. And uh, we have a special little s- uh, segment or talk with you today. And we're going to talk all about the security at the Ant Base. And we might have a little surprise in between, too. So let me bring in my good friend. Jackson. Hey, Jackson.
Good morning, my lovely, beautiful Amy.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. It's a good Sunday. How's that?
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful here. We're going to the
Yeah.
beach tomorrow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
yep.
crisp fall weather here. Beautiful, rich
Yeah.
blue skies, and yeah,
Yes. We don't have the humidity, so it's so nice to be outside,
yeah. I
This
definitely
time of
don't
year
ever
is
have,
just
and I keep the bright Sundays. Yeah.
I
I
need those
got,
more here.
I got. I mean, I always got to hand out to John. I got to show off the stuff he sends me. It just, I can't believe somebody does this for us, Amy. Isn't this incredible?
I know.
All these little things.
I know. If you look behind me, you can see that I've got on the third shelf down, I've got the little Oh No, Mr. Bill and
Yeah,
other fun little things.
I got Mr. Bill back up on my shelf up here. I've got the Team Mike.
Scooby
I've got
Doo.
the SP. I got Scooby Doo and Gumby up there.
Yep,
And
Scooby Doo. That was my nickname in school
oh
from my
yeah,
last name,
yeah,
Scooby.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So I wanted to
Here
go
we
over
are.
first to the chats just to say hi, Liz. Thank you for being here, my sweet darling, and all these people from all over the place. Here's one of my favorites of all time, Free Xenu Project. Thank you for being here with us. And also we've got North Carolina,
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
this is
Is
incredible,
this
isn't it?
another North Carolina?
Asheville. Yep.
Hello from Paris,
Wow.
really? We got Kentucky, and let's
South
see.
Africa. I see a South Africa in there. Just watching.
What?
Oh, there we go. That's awesome. See, I love
Did you
little
see a
things
South?
like that.
Hey, John's with us.
Yeah, there he is, the man.
And here's Palmer, Alaska. I don't know why it doesn't show a pink hand waving instead of saying pink hand waving. It's
I
stupid,
know.
but Palmer, Alaska, awesome. And here's Linda, my favorite Linda says
Hey,
Jackson.
girl. Yeah.
My two favorite SPs. Yay. Guys, this is also on Jackson's channel. Yes, it is. I helped walk him through to make sure that we had that go live at the same time.
Yeah.
So, give love and support on both channels.
And I
You
thank
know,
you for
I
that.
yeah, like okay, look at this cool little thing I just got. And I can go like this. Watch this. Okay.
I can't wait to. What's Amy got going on here?
Give love to Jackson.
Oh, look at that. A little whiteboard. That's pretty cool. A little message board.
Yeah. Yeah. Um anyway, let's see. We got more people all over the place coming in from here's somebody from Glasgow. Um
Amy, how we got this little Clearwater, Ohio, and Clearwater, Washington, and Clearwater,
yes, all over the
Wisconsin. We can
place.
go Gilman Hot Springs, Oregon. You know,
Right, yeah.
Gilman Hot Springs,
Oh,
Florida.
no. No,
No.
Clearwater is much better.
Yeah.
Gilman Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Speaking of Gilman Hot Springs, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay, here is South Africa and Netherlands. Okay, this is
Holy
a
smokers.
definite international broadcast, and I thank you all for being here. I like that.
Incredible.
Yes,
On the
Washington
planet
State,
for,
my
yeah,
my home
Washington.
state,
Just north of me.
Georgia. Anyway, everybody, thank you. I'm going to go out of this. If I missed you, I'm sorry, but we'll come back and we'll see your comments. But I want to talk to Jackson. We've got lots to talk
And I
about
want to talk to
today.
Amy.
Puerto Rico,
Oh,
sorry, had to say it. All right, New Jersey. I see you. I see you all.
make
I see you
sure.
all.
How's my sound? Is it
Clearwater Walmart. That is funny. Okay, that's
Clearwater
just for a
Walmart?
laugh.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. See, that's why I like the goofiness.
I know.
I just love it.
But speaking of Gilman Hot Springs, California.
Yes.
19625
19625 Highway 70,
Highway 79.
79.
Oh, man, that was my address for 20 years.
Oh,
How
I
many
can
years
humor
were you
you and
there?
show you. I can humor you and show me my original driver's license from that's in the other room. But how
Is
many
it?
years was I
Yeah.
there? From
Yeah.
1982 to 1997.
So 82 to 97. And so it was 1997 that you left, but 82 that you got there. I got there in 83.
Hmm.
And that's when I first met Matt. But you were already there and you were this tall, lanky teenager.
Yep. Tan, blonde hair. Yeah. My gosh,
And you
right?
were always so nice. Were you always in security? They never put you anywhere else, right?
Well, I initially was in cine, in the cinematography, the film thing is a video assistant, camera assistant, and then
Uh-huh.
shortly thereafter, the whole security was officially developed in the Sea Organization, and proudly with Matt and Kenny Siebold was one of the very first
Yeah.
security guards established,
Okay.
uniformed and
So
posted.
Matt, I think, has his dates kind of messed up a little bit. Hey, Matt, should we get my
Yeah.
husband in here?
Well,
Clarify a few
things
things.
can only get better at this point.
Okay, put on this little earpiece, honey.
My brother Matthew.
He can't hear you yet. There we
Oh,
go.
my brother
Okay,
Matthew.
put in here.
All right. Hey, this was supposed to be my lips day.
Yeah, we had to call you back in. We sent the bus out to pick you up.
So he got to the base in 1982.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so,
May of 1982.
okay, so Matt, what year did you start in security? You thought it was 1980.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And I
he
was
started.
gone in '83.
He and
so
Kenny
I can't hear
Siebold
you.
were.
Why is
You
that?
can't hear him? I can't hear him either. Why is that?
You can't hear
maybe,
me?
hang on. It muted.
1, 2, 3,
Matt
4,
touched
5, 6.
something. There we
Oh,
go.
that would be-
1,
We can
2,
hear
3,
you.
4, 5, 6. Okay.
So could you hear us talking?
No, yeah, I could hear you guys talking.
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Our earbuds, we touched it and it muted, so we couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, when I got
So-
there, Matt and Kenny were the only two in security, and they used to organize staff members to do what we knew as the WQSB, or Watch Quarter Station Bill, watching, and they're riding around the old Schwinn bike, and Leroy Turner patrolling up at Bonnie View, and we had somebody at the Broadway guard booth and dog box and all that, Matt. So
Jim Cup was there right from the start. Too.
oh yeah, Jim Cupp, and Kenny Siebold were the three original
about
Yeah,
guards.
and then
Paul
Paul got added
Well, he
pretty soon
came
after
along.
that.
Yep. And that was when the church had decided to form its official security department. And
In an office by
yeah, our
Miscavige
main office.
and,
Yeah.
You got called in by who?
Miscavige and
Norman Starkey.
Norman Starkey. They called
Yeah.
me to an office and they told me they wanted to form up a security
Yep.
routine, and that I should pick some guys and pick the uniforms and all that good stuff.
Yep. And that's how I came into it. And we got briefed by the church attorneys. I remember the attorneys coming in and spending a couple of weeks with us, drilling us and directing us as to what to do's and not to do's.
Yeah, also ex-police officers from Los Angeles.
Yep. Getting drilled and trained, and with the camera in our face. Where's L. Ron Hubbard? I'll never forget that. The zooming in. Where's L. Ron Hubbard? The red light being in your face. They wanted to really recreate what it could be like out there at the booth. So yeah.
Yeah,
Which it was many times, just like
Yes, sir, it was.
that.
So Matt was the first security chief ever posted at the INT base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone moved on to that property in Hemet in December 1978. Just at the end of December 78.
I was there for Christmas of that year.
Yeah. And then pretty much everyone was doing renovations to start with. And so there wasn't really too much security going on other than, just a few people.
There was still non-Scientologists living there. The post office was still operating. I mean, we had a little small crew, and nobody was to know that we were Scientologists.
Yep. Yeah, that the public thing was we were caretakers for a wealthy property investor caring for the property for him. That's what I remember our short story, or what we told anybody stopped by inquiring.
Yeah,
I wish Scientology would get a clue of why they always need short stories, is because what they're doing is gross and terrible and
Yeah.
people hate them.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just shocking.
Of
Yeah.
course, when you start off with a lie like that, sooner or later it's going to blow up, like just like it did at the Fort Harrison in Clearwater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It blew up there when the public found out they were lied to, and the same thing happened at the international base. The local community was very, very upset when they found out they had been being played and lied to. I
they
mean,
were
why?
upset that to find out that we really didn't make porn movies out there. You remember that?
I don't know. I don't remember that part.
Well, that wasn't the story we told, but that was the local folklore that people in the local community assumed that we did because we were so secret.
Oh, okay. All right.
They actually come up to our drive. I mean, there were people that drove all the way from Los Angeles, pulling up to the gate, expecting to get in and begin their adult career. No joke.
Oh,
I'm
brother.
not joking.
But it wasn't that, but it was a cult.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It was.
different kind.
We'll
They must
take
have been
we'll
pulled
take
up at your
the
gate.
we'll take the A out and replace it with the C. And
Oh,
But yeah.
brother.
yeah. Anyways, always good to see your smiling face there, Matthew.
Yeah. So yeah, he had Kenny Siebel, Jim Cup, Paul Kellerhouse, and you there. And then why did you get the name Jackson?
Well, security to keep security in and not let any internal operations hit the outside world. We always considered our radios to be insecure, so we had to come up with names other than our actual names. And Jackson was an expression I used to use. For example, you are closing a door, you almost catch your fingers in it. You walk into down in the Massacre Canyon in our mess hall, somebody would just mop the floors and you step on a wet floor and almost slip and fall. And I'd say, "Whoa, Jackson." I don't know why I said it, but one of the guards, Mark Locke, laughed every time I said it. And then
He was one.
Mark
He,
Locke.
he was
yeah.
one of the originals.
Yeah.
Remo, yeah, good old Remo. That was his handle because he read Louis L'Amour books, and that was a character out of the Louis L'Amour books. So we called him Remo. But because I said Jackson, and I really don't know why, it just came naturally to me. That became my handle, and that's from 1982 to this day. That's how 90% of the people in
I
the Scientology. Yep,
I only called you Jackson.
that's
I
everybody.
don't even know if I knew that your name was. I didn't know his name was Mark. Okay, until I met him. But yeah, I only knew you as Jackson, and I knew that it was after the dates where everyone had to have an AKA. And I asked him, why was it that Jackson had to do that? And he said it was a handle thing for
Yeah.
security.
Yeah.
Yeah, to keep in security with over the radios and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah, that answered that.
Yeah.
What?
I got a question. Were you there when Pat Broker was running around the parking lot with the gun and all that stuff?
Yep. In his blue Ford pickup to 250 pickup truck, he used to stop in the middle of the highway, just park his truck in the middle of Highway 79 and get out. And it was like, that was my first experience. Like, who the heck is this? What's going on here?
Tell him what happened.
I mean, when they were doing that, I was part of that ComEv that was being done.
Yep. RTC Conditions Order 1, Matt.
Yeah,
You were the first very
Jesse
one.
Prince,
Yep.
Shelley Miscavige, Ray Midoff. We were all members of that committee and doing the ComEv on all those guys.
ComEv is a committee of evidence.
Committee of evidence is like
It was
I don't know.
internal justice.
Justice.
Internal justice. In the middle of it, Pat Broker. I came out we were taking a break because we were working one to night for weeks.
Who Pat Broker is.
Yeah.
Pat Broker ended up being the one person with Annie. His wife was the last person with L. Ron Hubbard, and Pat Broker worked with him too for the last several years of his life. So he was a senior executive. He was supposed to take over the church, and there was a power play at the end. So that's who it is that he's talking about right now.
Yeah. It was
All right,
who
so when
L. Ron
Pat would
Hubbard
drive-
passed the torch
That's
on
right.
to.
That's right. And when Pat would drive on the property, he would come in with a van with the curtains on it and all that.
Yeah.
And the security guards, none of us were allowed to ask who was in the van,
Right.
any questions about the van at all. He was coming in to see, I guess, David Miscavige and a couple of people there. And one day when I came out for a break during the middle of that committee of evidence, he comes running up with a semi-automatic rifle, and he's yelling at me, "Get in the van!" Right, and like just wild-eyed. And I figured this must be Pat Broker, although I had never met him. Right? And so I got in there. He drove down to the parking lot by the Massacre Canyon Inn restaurant down there. And he pulls out a handgun and he starts running across. He's like flipping out because somebody was up on the hillside, like a half a mile away. And he was flipping out like they were going to be taking pot shots at us or something
Yeah.
like that. Which of course it wasn't the case.
Nope.
And
Never was.
and so he was over dramatizing that whole thing. And I said over the radio to PK, I think it was, I said, this guy's crazy. And because I said that over the radio, it was a flop because this was Pat Broker. So I got called down to the CDM, Miscavige, and he said, "What happened?" Right? He was alone at a table in the dining room, and so I told him what happened, and he just acknowledged. He wasn't like, he said, "Okay, I got it. All right." So I'm like, "All right." So I'm not in trouble for that. So I went away. Years later, when I got posted as the captain of the flag crew,
Yeah.
and I was sent up lines
in Florida.
In Florida at flag, I got sent up to get briefed before I took over that job. And this guy came up to me and he said, "Just so you know, I approved you to be the captain flag crew because you were the first one to point out and speak out about Pat Broca being crazy." And I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't know there was a power play between Pat Broca and David.
Yeah, because you left the property while it was going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Dave, he was trying to put people in positions of authority that supported him but didn't support Pat.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy times.
And here I always thought that you got kicked off the base, sent to Flag RPF because of you took a stand against the incorrect way in which that RTC Conditions Order Committee of Evidence was being conducted.
Yeah,
that's what I remember. That you.
Well, what happened? Yeah. What happened was they were all those guys that were getting commented.
David Mayo.
David Mayo, John Nelson, all those guys. They got sent out to Happy Valley, and they were waiting to find out what the recommendations would be for weeks, for months. And these guys were like, "We don't want to hang around." I'm trying to keep them there, and eventually they all just got up and they walked, out of the reservation. They just walked out. So I was in trouble for, allowing them to escape. And I'm like, "Oh, goody."
It didn't help that I
duct tape them. What did you say about the duct tape? What am I supposed to do? Duct tape them to the tree?
Yeah. It didn't help that Dave Miscavige, I think, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, had $30,000 cash stuffed in a shoebox in his berthing that was discovered, and Dave made a big hoo-ha about that.
Oh, David Mayo? No, that was kind of a made-up story because he had some money, but it was for some project that he had been assigned to.
Yeah.
So they made it look like he was stealing, like they always do.
I remember. Yeah.
They try to take something and make it into a big deal when it's not, kind of thing. So I mean, you've experienced that yourself. I have too. It's like that's the way the game is played.
Yep.
But so I wound up going to the RPF for a day. Then they pulled me right back because I didn't want to send my folders down. Yeah. And then they put me on the correction project force, and along with a few other guys, and that whole thing would happen. And eventually got out of that.
There began your new career in Florida.
Yep.
Eventually, there's still a lot of time in between there, running all kinds of things at the base after that, including running.
Oh yeah, the Renos.
Yeah, the Renos.
Yep.
That's where we met. Yeah, because I was on the RPF, like usual, and I just turned 20 years old and went up to the INT base as an RPF member, and Matt was running the renovations and taught me. Well, first we did a project together in LRH's audio-visual area that needed like what was that, linoleum kind of red floor, and that we laid together.
It was anti-static. Yeah, you had to roll it out in sheets and put it down. So
we laid that floor together, just he and I, and also did lighting. We were married to different people at that time. I on him for many years.
Now, everybody, all our listeners should know is we're speaking of a time period when what you now know the Gilman Hot Springs property to look like, which is a bunch of blue tiled roofs and white buildings, and it's all lush. This was back in the time that Matt was put in charge of the renovations to bring the resort, the Gilman Hot Springs Resort, out of the pink and white colored buildings and resort atmosphere into what we wanted it to be, which was a progressively churning process, creative process. But we initially started putting in sidewalks everywhere, so we had places to walk. The Star of California, which is that replica of a clipper ship built on the outside of an existing building to look like clipper ship was docked in a Polynesian port, and Matt was in charge of running all that. And a number of
Hmm.
base staff, including myself, were part of those initial renovations in the start of the changing of the face of what Gilman Hot Springs property was looking like into what it was wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see a bunch of people talking about buffering issues, and I don't know what that is. I think it's
Oh,
YouTube in itself because I was going to I was trying to download the flyover of the int base so that we could show these different places as we're speaking, and it wouldn't download, and things were starting to buffer. It was really weird. I don't know why this is all going on, but I'm
so,
sorry, and I hope that you can still watch without that happening too much. I don't know what's going on.
and can
Some
everybody
sort of
hear? Somebody says, Kathy O'Toole says, "This is not fair. I want to hear Jackson." Can I be heard? Am I being
No, it's
heard?
because of the buffering. It's
Oh,
not
oh,
because you
okay,
can't be heard.
okay,
Yeah. So, it's the buffering issues, and I don't
okay.
know why that is. And hopefully the stream won't have those buffering issues, and if it does, I don't know what to say.
Got it.
Um, but see, right now I don't see if people could it says I hear you. Okay, so there we go.
We're all
We're just gonna
good.
we're just gonna continue. But yes, I just wanted to acknowledge that people are having trouble with that.
Okay, it's all
And
fixed, they're saying.
yeah, yeah. So, and it is happening with other channels. Yeah, I understand. So we're just going to continue and
Mhm.
take it from there. Now, before we get rid of this guy, somebody said something that I wanted to. It was Willie Weed, and I'm going to show that. He said, hopefully Matt will join in and we can finally get the skinning on the early 1980 flood of Hemet and San Jacinto Scientology is responsible for, but never claimed. So I wanted you to be able to say something about that.
All right, I'll give you.
And I don't know, Jackson was there too, right?
No, I came
I'm
just
sure.
after it.
Oh, did you
Good.
just after that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I should explain that there is like a dry bed river that runs past the
It's called the
property,
San
right through
Jacinto River.
Yep. And in the summertime, it's completely dry. It's got a sandy bottom. It's got concrete sidewalls. But during the rainy season, it starts filling up with water. And this one year in 1980, it kept raining and raining and raining. That thing kept getting higher and higher and higher. And the Army Corps of Engineers, they brought in a bulldozer, or two bulldozers, to maintain, to shore up the side that was by the town. But they weren't working on our side. They weren't there for our side. They were there for the town side. These bulldozers were so big, they brought the parts in on 18-wheeler trucks and assembled on site. These things were mammoth. I mean, they would drive right into the river, push the dirt up on the bank, and just work right in the river all day long. Anyway, on our side, we had a little bulldozer, a backhoe, and a whole bunch of people with shovels. And our side of the bank was getting eaten away. And the concrete slabs that were like 15 feet by 15 feet were being like torn off the side, spun in like a graham cracker right down the river. Trees that were 20, 30 feet tall were getting gobbled up and dragged down the river. Just to give you an idea how intense that river got. I mean, there was like 2 feet waves in that river passing by.
Yeah, I mean, it was
So
300 feet wide and about 15, 20 feet deep.
right. So we kept trying to push dirt up on the riverbank from our side, which means we were making a trench along the river on our side of the property, because we weren't in the water pushing mud out. We were pushing mud, from our property up. So eventually we were all standing in a trench that was lower than the level of the water in the river. And the wall of the bank got down to like 3 or 4 feet wide in places. We were just running back and forth from one area to the other, trying to like shore up our bank. And we knew it was going to break through. It was just a matter of time. So it was going to be like, is it going to be our side or their side? And obviously it was going to be our side going first. And our port captain at that time, Ron Pook, went off, and I think he collected up Chris Byrne, and they popped a hole through the other side like just minutes before our side went. And once they popped that hole, the water started pouring through there, because the town side is actually lower. The field kind of drops down. And once that water started popping through there, it just ate that whole wall out. That whole river kind of diverted, towards Hemet. And our side broke a couple of minutes later. But because the water was mainly going towards the town, we got flooded. Our golf course got flooded. the parking lot and all that got flooded, but it stopped from going into the buildings by like an inch or so. And yeah, that's what happened.
And
They
that
got
turned into
flooded
a
bad.
major incident locally. Like it
Oh,
tremendous amount of tragedy because of what
yes.
was done at the church's behest. It flooded the local cow farms. Herds of cows were lost. Homes were flooded. It's just a secret,
People
little
died.
dirty
Yeah,
secret
people.
that the
Some people
church,
died in that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
very,
just to
very,
give you an
very
idea
real.
how much water and mud and all that stuff flowed when it was done, those huge bulldozers were buried to the point where only the little exhaust pipes that stuck up were sticking out of the mud by a foot or something like that. Otherwise, you couldn't even find them. They had to come in the next summer and dig those things out. I mean,
Yeah,
that's to give people the intensity of that river, the flow of water and mud and all that stuff. It was major, and that town got devastated by that
yeah.
incident.
You can
They
actually
never needed to. They didn't need to.
you can do a historical lookup research on the San Jacinto floods of 1980 and see all the devastation that resulted, and
Yeah,
that was
Yeah.
because of the church.
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I wanted to answer that one question while you were here.
yeah.
Anything else you would like to ask Matt before I send him away?
Why
I
is
would
he
just say
so?
one other thing. You
Yeah.
got to realize that Scientology, like its viewpoint, that of a cult is like the end justifies the means. The viewpoint was that Hubbard needed to come there and use the new studio that we just had made, and the things that he was going to do was going to save the entire planet. So if a couple of towns and some people needed to get destroyed in order for that to happen, from the viewpoint of a cult member, Scientologist, that was all justified, and that's how it went, man. And that's the problem. That's the liability of having an extremist cult like that live in your neighborhood,
Hmm.
because it is dangerous, and that's the scene. All right, that's my 2 cents.
Yes.
Call me if you need anything.
Thank you. Did you want to ask anything
Oh, I was just
before?
gonna say, why is Matt so good looking? He's a good looking dude.
Because he's married to me.
Yeah, that's right.
It's that cream I put on my face.
Yeah.
So you'll take that away.
Yep.
Leave the earbud because I might need it.
Yep.
And then move this away. Well, thank you. Okay. So I got lots of questions for you.
All right, I'll
and,
do the best I can do to answer them for you.
Well, so the property, I'll just share this.
There it
This
is.
was your security booth for many years.
And that was the original signage out front with the electronic sign that we finally. And probably if you can zoom in on that, it says
I can't.
tours every Sunday.
Yeah, no, it says welcome Golden Era Productions.
Oh.
I have no idea why they would say welcome to themselves, but
Well,
what it
that's
says on it.
because this was a stock shot that was created for PR purposes in a flyer, and it just had to read that we are so greeting, but the gates are closed. Well, no, the out gate's open, but the in gate's closed. But yeah, that's the
Yeah.
new security booth and my old stomping grounds.
It was. But so you got on the base in 1982. I
Yep.
arrived soon after that. And so, yeah, I've known you since it's 2023 right now. It's been 40 years that we've known each other, Jackson.
That is incredible. It's an incredible
I know.
thought.
I know. 40 years.
I know.
Wow. So that property is 520 acres. I wish I had the video, but I had
It's
that whole
525.
scrolling problem.
525 acres.
525. And that 525 acres, you had to like fence the place and put security in. I've got other like
Yeah,
it started
now,
getting
okay.
draconian.
This
right?
is a very famous internet-wide photograph that was taken of the perimeter fence. Now, I want to take the effort here, first of all, to clarify something. That stuff you're looking at there is not razor wire, what is called razor wire, or that circular wire that you typically see around a prison or a place that chooses to have access very limited. This is called altar barrier, and the original
It's like
designs.
razor sharp.
Yeah, no, yeah, the whole idea, and I can tell you that those things are very effective because they actually were put to test on some criminals that were jumping from the outside to the inside of the property and got stuck on those. And
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
no, yeah. But initially, in the initial design of the security system, which you now know to be existing at the property, it was directed by L. Ron Hubbard that he did not want it to look. He wanted fencing, but he wanted fencing to blend in
oh,
as
that
much as
blends.
possible. Yeah, and not look so much like a fortress or prison camp.
Right, with the
Ironically,
rolls of the
yeah,
barbed wire at the top and all
and
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. He didn't want any of that. So we researched what was out there on the market, and we discovered this. This is a stainless steel product that came in. I think it was 2, 4, and 6 inch length spikes, and that's just basically angled stainless steel. It had punched out those things, and we chose, I think, the 4 to 6 inch spikes, and that just lays on the top rail of any chain link fence, and it's just really low profile but highly effective. And that's what it's called, is ultra barrier. I don't speak proudly of it. I just wanted to clarify that it's literally not a shaving razor wire, but it's more poking purposes rather than slicing purposes.
Yeah.
So
Super sharp though.
yeah,
Um, and so at what point did everything get so draconian? Because there's that, and then you also had this eagle nest,
that's the
which
good
must
old
have been
Eagle
pretty
booth.
that must have been pretty hot up there.
Well, imagine sitting up there. Well, I mean, you can't see that up there, but sitting in that dirt, dry, heavily rocked area, there used to not be any shelter. It used to be just a piece of ground, and we sat on a rock. And then to protect us from the elements, first of all, the wind, we started digging a hole to sit in a hole in a chair that we
Mhm.
could just look over the edge. I wish my mouse can do it, but the left hand, the front facing edge,
Mhm.
that would look towards the property off to the right of this photograph. That's the backside going up the mountain. And
Yep.
right here in the forefront is the entrance,
Camera,
which we
right?
used to walk. Yeah, there's a camera there now. But
Okay.
yeah, there's a little slit there along the front on the left that we would look out. But this was finally relief from the external elements of sitting in the sun, because I used to literally sit up there in my underwear all day. It was so hot. I mean, I would strip down to my underwear and
Yeah.
just to maintain my body temperature, but we'd sit in the sun all freaking day. So this booth, this location, this site. Believe it or not, if you remember Eric Ergens, Amy,
Yeah.
he was a
Of course.
staff member that became one
I
of
totally remember Eric Ergens.
yeah, became one of the security guards, and he went hiking around up in the hills during watch one day to look for a position that he could basically observe a majority of the property without having to run to an area in which an alarm was had been created, and be able to give a report on conditions right away of what's going on in this area where the alarm was activated. So we became aware of the advantages of creating a new security position up on the mountain, and we called it Eagle. And that was its radio handle, so nobody could tell where it was, but it was fitting to where it was. It was just an eagle overlooking the property. And we eventually, for years we had no power up there. It was very cold at night. We used to take wood up there and burn it to stay warm at night. It just was very rough. So
Yeah.
we eventually had power run up to it where we can have an electric heater, and I had a police scanner up there. I can listen to the scanner with the fire department and local law enforcement and TV shows. I used to listen to TV shows on it because I figured out how to program TV's broadcasted audio, and I used to listen to Married with Children up there and something else. It was just funny.
I can't
Yeah.
believe that you had
Dun,
that. None
dun,
of us got to have
dun.
that.
Yeah.
I guess
Al
when you're at
Bundy.
the top of a mountain and there's no one within, like, I don't know, half a mile or something, I guess
Well,
you can
and
listen to
we're
whatever
not,
you want.
there were security directives that specifically said we were not supposed to listen to the radio when we were on watch. So
Mhm.
I mean, when you're forced to sit up there for 10, 14, 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
yeah. We found it. But anyways, that's the Eagle booth, and never at
Mhm.
once at any time ever was there a sniper rifle up there up until the time that I was there in '97.
Yeah.
People
I
have
know
come
that
to,
people asked about that. Yeah.
yeah, never once. Never trusted any of the guards to carry guns. I mean, we can go down that path also, but that simply was an observation post. We had a set of L. Ron Hubbard's Zeiss binoculars up there. They were really good. They came from his property up in Creston and passed on to security. And we eventually we had a spotting scope up there just to allow us to be able to see, as any security entity would, take advantage of your elevated viewing points to overlook your property that you're responsible for. I mean, that's,
So, did you always have someone? It was it a 24/7 manned watch?
yeah, 24/7. There
Okay.
was somebody up there, at least up until when I left. And then through technology, they replaced a person with technology because there's a power up there. They could put a pan tilt zoom camera up there, and those were very expensive. At least I'm going to say we bought I don't know if you ever watch your typical football event and all the cameramen along the sidelines with the big white looking Canon lenses that they're looking through to shoot the athletes playing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Those things are expensive. Those are anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 a piece. And we bought one of those off of a cameraman from ABC 7 channel TV news in Los Angeles for $3,500.
Oh, nice.
And we put it up there and had a pan tilt zoom. It was very expensive at the time, and yeah, so
But you still had to have a security guard there as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Okay. And how many people did you have in the security force?
Initially, it started with 3 watches of 5 guards apiece. So there was the main booth, there was Broadway, there was Bonneview, there was Beulah, and a patrolling guard. And one of those was identified as the watch chief, who typically sat in the main booth. And so there was 3 watches of 5, so that was 15 full-time guards who held 8-hour watch stints. And when they come off watch, they go do internal inspections and reports, and then study and go to bed. And then eventually, as time went on, through either guards blowing or failing off their post, it was reduced down to 2 watches of 5 guys. Um, uh, so that we ended up holding 12-hour watches every day,
Oh, man.
12 on, 12
Yeah.
off.
Yep.
And depending on the situations and the quote unquote flaps that were happening, sometimes you had to send guards off to go look for people. So our manpower would be even reduced, and we had to fill in those slots.
You know,
And it
you were
wasn't unheard
definitely
of.
stretched.
Yeah, we'd stretch our resources, and it wasn't unheard of to find a guard sitting on watch for 24 hours. And what kind of reliable security do you have then with the guard who's been sitting there?
I always heard about security guards falling asleep
Yeah,
because that was
well,
your common flap of security was
yeah,
a security guard falling asleep on the job. Well, you guys were being stretched to the limit. So
yeah.
how much was the most you had in security then?
That
That would have
the three
been
watches of 15, and then also we had a security chief, deputy security chief. So there was 17 of us.
okay. 3 watches of 15.
3 watches of 5 apiece, but
Oh,
broken
okay. So
down, broken.
15 plus, yeah. Okay, good. So
Yeah.
almost 20 guys. And so there's some of these people that I wanted to talk about. So here's a picture of some of your security guys here that
Oh
we
my
were
gosh.
talking about.
Okay.
Um, and this is also people from the cinematography
Okay.
division that had the cameras and everything. But
Yeah.
this is when someone tried to come up to the base and
Okay. Yeah.
security basically going to accost them.
Yeah. The gentleman in the center white shirt with the glasses on, that's Kenny
Kenny.
Siebold. Kenny Siebold was the security chief, the security chief after Matt was taken out.
Yeah,
And
Kenny took over.
yeah, and Kenny took over and was the security chief for the longest time up until 1990, the flood.
Yep, he was for like a long time
Yep.
on that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
everybody knew him. He's a great guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a cool cat. I mean, Kenny and I were buds, man. He was my dude, and he fell out of favor with Dave Miscavige, and was taken off because his failure to take effective actions for the flood. And my only saving grace was I actually was the one that was notifying people and mustering up estates personnel to get equipment and people down to the G units to do something about what was going on. I don't know.
Right.
I was just doing something. I think Kenny was committed to a meeting, wasn't really aware what was happening at the time, yada, yada, yada. Kenny chewed him up and forever never trusted him again. And he
Right.
would, as much as I tried to get him back in security, Dave did not want him in security. So Kenny
Yeah.
was forced to be the one to take care of Dave Beckham's soccer field out in the South 40.
Yep. And then the guy closest to us, so that's um what's his name from Alcock?
Yeah,
John Alcock's son.
that's right. That's Alcock John, and then and the one to the right of Kenny in the center in the dark T-shirt, that's John Gonzalez.
John Gonzalez.
Has always been in the camera department of Golden Era Productions.
Yep.
And then just over the shoulder of, you see his head close to the Golden Era sign, kind of a
John.
balding hand. That's a good old John. I want to be.
John Stumpke.
Yeah, I can't hold my own. I'm going to ride your coattails, Stumpke.
Really?
Yeah, he was a troubled individual. It always struggled to successfully hold any position of importance.
He got kicked out of CMO International into gold.
Yeah, and he was another gentleman that was terribly just ruined as an individual. And I can't necessarily see who's standing to the right in the background with a white shirt and camera in his hand. I can't tell who that is.
That looks like Ellis. Oh, let's see. Hold on. Barbara McHenry's husband.
Oh my
McHenry.
gosh! Wow, McHenry Ellis.
No. Barbara McHenry's
Yeah,
husband. So something McHenry. What was it? I forget the first name.
can't blame us for having a foggy memory, huh?
After all of this.
Yeah, the surprise we can remember their first name is just proves how much the people in that place was ingrained in our brain cells.
Yeah. Oh, it was. And then here is
Oh my gosh,
Kevin Catano
that's
again.
Kevin
with, I guess,
Catano
yeah. And then
and Muriel.
Muriel DeFriends. She was in the PR department.
Yep, and that's Muriel that you may have heard about recently that partook in Valerie Haney's official first religious arbitration.
Ooh, I didn't know that she was assigned, huh?
Yeah, she was one of the staff that was hauled to LA from Golden Era to be the BS religious arbitration member.
Oh, yeah. Let's take somebody from the legal department at Golden Era
Yeah.
that covers up crimes and go
Yep.
put them on the arbitration. Yeah, those.
You know, I
stupid
traveled to
arbitration-
LA recently, Amy, back in August, and
Yeah.
one of my firefighters told me that Muriel and he interacted at a social event locally, and out of the blue, Muriel walked up to him and goes, "Hey, do you know what the latest with Jackson is?" Yeah, like she's still up to this last August, well, maybe sometime early this year, inquiring locally with all my previous firefighter brotherhood. When she runs across them, she asks them to get her intelligence information updated
Woo!
as to what the update is with Jackson.
Yeah. What did he tell him?
He didn't fucking, oh, excuse my French. He didn't know. He's like, "What are you asking me that for?" "I just wanted to know, see if you knew how he was doing, make it all sound
Yeah, right.
soft and sweet.
Oh,
Yeah.
yuck. Okay, here's another favorite. Not.
Oh my God, Danny done it
Danny-
again.
His name is Dunnigan, Danny Dunnigan, and we always call it Danny Done It Again because he seemed to mess up everything he
He
touched.
was just an incredible goof. He was like a younger Mr. Magoo.
Yeah.
you
This
give
is
him
a picture. This is a picture of him. Like he actually wrestled the person to the ground who was trying to just be there and protest Scientology. He actually said, was so aggressive and actually wrestled them to the ground.
Yeah, he actually,
believe it.
yeah, because Danny would do the dumbest things where he thought he was doing right, but it was actually the most wrong decision you can make at the time. And he,
Yeah.
I mean, he literally would, if he gave an assignment to sweep a floor, he'd somehow find a bucket of paint with the loose lid and spill it, and then end up sweeping it around and not noticing it, And you'd wonder, how as a human being could you not notice what you're doing? And that's how he got his name at Dunning. He nearly
Dunning,
shot
right?
himself in the foot.
Mm.
with one of the guns. Yeah, he was just a he actually we had a drive-by shooting, and that new security booth you saw out there with the golden arrow sign we were talking about. That booth was designed specifically to be bulletproof with bulletproof glass and encased in sleet rock or whatever that type of rock. Yeah, all that's all
Yeah,
designed to be bulletproof. And
right.
Danny was so scared, and you can't necessarily blame him in a sense, but when you're standing inside a bulletproof place and someone's driving by with a shotgun shooting, he crawled down underneath the desk thinking that was going to save him. It just was like he was just frightened beyond belief. You can make him cry on a dime. It just was not the right person for security, but he always stepped up to the place to make up to the plate to make people's lives miserable, and that's why he was liked.
I know he
He
did.
loved
It was one
exercising.
of the type of people that were just mad all the time, and like
Yeah,
he's going to come in and he's going to inspect your basics, and he knows he's going to find something.
yeah,
And anyway, but that's how some of those guys were. Not all of them. Like Kenny wasn't like that. Kenny was
no.
such an easygoing guy. But I want to bring up another one of your guards.
Uh oh. I
I
want
call
to see
him
if I
your
can
guard.
guess who it is.
Your guard. You won't guess. Kenny
Okay.
Campbellman.
Oh my gosh,
Do
KC.
you remember Kenny? Okay, so Kenny
Yes.
Campbellman. He used to be a musician. He's a little short guy who played the flute. So he was assigned to escort me to the airport and onto my airplane to take so that I get assigned to the RPF in Clearwater. And so security was going to pick me up at Clearwater End, but he was meant to get me on the plane as my security escort to make sure that I didn't blow on my way. And so we get to the airport. Let's see, this was 2000. It was July of 20, uh, 2003, July 2003. So we get to the LAX and I'm like going through and he's taking me and I go through, baggage check or whatever. And then all of a sudden I see Kenny getting like lifted and taken off to a back room, right?
Oh
And
my
I'm thinking,
gosh.
okay, this is pretty interesting. And it was because he had all his paraphernalia on.
Right.
He's trying to get through security to escort me, with his mace and his
Yeah.
handcuffs
The
and
Sam Brown belt, the typical
yeah, yeah.
uniformed
What were
police
on those?
officer utility belt.
Yeah, what were on those? You had
Handcuffs
handcuffs?
of handcuffs. I mean, almost whatever you wanted to put on it, just short of carrying a sidearm, but a
Yeah.
baton holder, usually two sets of
Baton. I think he
handcuffs.
had a baton.
Yeah.
He had a baton. He had mace. He had handcuffs.
Yeah.
He had all this stuff, and he was trying to get through the security. And they literally took him into the back room. And I was like, okay, I can
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
go
I'm
wherever
gone.
the hell
See
I
ya.
want to right now.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any place to go, and I didn't know where to
That is
go. So
funny, Amy.
I got on my plane. But
Our
yeah,
internal
nope.
security measures were neutralized just like that by picking up short little petite Kenny Campbellman.
He was back there like an hour.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Being
yeah.
interrogated, I'm sure.
I missed my chance to escape. I spent 2 years in the RPF, but I would have missed out on Matt. So,
Yeah. Right.
I'm actually really glad that I went and waited and that Matt and I escaped together because on March 13th, we're going to have our 19th wedding anniversary.
Holy smokers, Amy. That's just incredible.
We
That's
got married
incredible.
like a week, less than 2 weeks after we left. So,
Wow.
oh man. Okay. And so now, so those are the pictures that I had, and the other pictures, I have a couple things. I want to see if I can share my screen because I want to show you something. Let's
Okay.
see if I go present, share screen, this, and then share. Can y'all see that or no? Oh, I have to add it. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, but
Oh
I'm
my
not at the
gosh.
right place on it. Hold on. I got to go to the top.
Okay.
Okay, so Golden Arrow Productions did this Ron Miscavige's shameless stupid thing because this is Ron Miscavige Sr. was writing a book and he was complaining about the Int base, and so they're doing a whole blog post with photos about how ideal it is. But I wanted to show you some of the pictures because we can talk about them. So here we go. So there's that. That's where I got
There's
the
the
photo.
entrance. Okay.
Okay, so this is exterior view of the property.
That's
Um,
basically directly south of Massacre Canyon Inn, looking back north. So the
yeah, and
riverbed's to your back.
the riverbed's to the back, and also straight ahead, up halfway up that mountain is where Eagle is.
Yeah, that little clearing in the kind of darker shaded little mound of dirt there on the left, center left, is the face of the hill where the Eagle booth is at. And that's
Okay,
as far up the hill as the property line for Golden Era property. Golden Era Productions goes up that hill, by the way.
right. So that shows
Legally,
where that.
legally, traveling on the property.
Yeah. And this white building on the right there, that's building
36.
36, which is the manufacturing building. And that's where the Hubbard electropsychometer assembly is, where I used to work. That's where the executives' offices are. That's where the personnel department is. So you had a little security booth down there with all of your cameras, right?
Yeah, there was a security room and the security office. But yeah, there was a room
Mm-hmm.
down in the first floor of that building in which were all the cameras that we had placed around the property where we could watch, and everything was being recorded 24/7.
I am sure they photo edited this with green grass
Well,
everywhere.
I
That's
do have to say, Amy, that there was a lot of effort and pride put into these fields out here. I wanted to point out that some people may have heard in recent YouTubes where David Miscavige was just trying to wine and dine David Beckham in the
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
the right hand corner of this picture in the green there. You can see the lawnmower cut
Soccer
patterns in the
field.
grass. But
Hmm.
right there in the lower right hand corner, you can see the slight difference between the colors in the grass and
Yeah,
the contours of the land. It all of a sudden runs flat right there. Well, was basically
that's
the
where it
soccer
is.
pitch. That was a
Yeah,
soccer field that was built to the British standards of football out there for Tom. And there is
that's the studio that I worked on when I
that's
first
the L. Ron
got up
Hubbard
there,
Music Studio.
and it goes. Yeah, and it goes
There it is.
in. I helped build all of this crap.
Yeah, I gotta
The
say,
baffles in the ceiling, and
it is you're gonna go, what a lush labyrinth. I mean, it was pretty intense and
uh,
pretty incredible to be in there. I will be honest with you, it was freaking beautiful.
this this floor is floating.
It's
Like
floating. This
it's a floating floor,
even
so
through,
that no rumbles if of anything happening outside could
yeah,
affect any of the
because of
sound.
the main highway running through that little glass booth there on the right too. By the way, that's the drummer's booth. That's
Yeah.
where the drummers were. Even that is on its
Right here.
own slope floating slab.
Yep, yep. And this is in the
That's where
control
Peter Schless
area.
used to work, and that's where the
Music
synclavier.
composition.
Yep,
Yep.
all those keyboards are on the
And
right.
that's just another view of it.
Yep,
I love how
and
they
there's
say
the
one of the
conference room.
conference rooms used by musicians working. Yeah,
Yeah,
used by the musicians.
use
This is like off limits. This is where
off.
Tom Cruise did his
Kelly,
courses.
yeah, Kirstie Alley was in there studying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It was totally off limits.
yep.
And a
That's
lounge the musicians would hang out. Yeah,
well, that's
no,
the other
they
part
didn't
of
hang
that
out
same
there.
room. Yeah,
I know, but they didn't hang
yeah.
out there. I can
No,
tell you that.
no. There's the rehearsal room.
Rehearsal
The old
room.
that's the
Yeah,
old tape building.
yeah.
Remember the old tapes
And
building?
yeah, it's just like it's just a square room.
Yeah,
Nothing big
that is now the
with it.
musicians. Yep.
An extensive library with thousands of recordings. Whatever. Um,
The new
this
Cine
is
studio.
the castle. Oh
Yeah,
my God, we worked so hard on that thing to build it and to make it perfect, and it's huge.
it's
It's
huge.
gigantic. Yep. That's inside of it.
Yeah, there's a sound stage inside.
Yep. They throw millions and millions and millions of dollars at this
Millions of
place.
dollars.
5-star dining. Okay. 5-star, Jackson. Did you know that?
5-star. Where were we when that was 5-star?
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. 5-star.
Yeah.
5-star. They
And
don't
so
even know what 5-star
this is
means.
an entrance. Those two double doors right there go into the canteen.
That's right. That's where we
That
bought
was
our soap, our
yeah,
toothpaste,
cigarettes.
cigarettes,
Cigarettes.
candy bars,
Yep.
and that was basically where our pay would cycle back into the church's bank account.
Totally. Oh yeah. You ate protein bars because,
Yeah,
and then you hid them because you missed meals all the time. This is the dining
and that's what
room.
it looked like in our.
This is only one wing. So if you're standing like if I'm looking this way, if I looked to the right, it's another one of these, except for on that side. So it's kind of like an
Yeah.
L.
Now, deep into your left there, you can see two separate individual tables along the windows there. That one right
There's
there,
three.
maybe.
There's
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually three.
But that's where Dave. That's where Dave
This was
himself.
the executive strata, the
Yep.
exec ints would sit here with Guillaume, executive director international. This middle one was RTC, and Dave Miscavige
David.
and
That's where
Shelley
Dave. That's right.
would sit there. And then there's one off the side here, which is Watchdog Committee.
Yep.
And so I was telling a story about how Shelley told me, I was sitting over here with the Watchdog Committee. She said, like, you need to come and just be a part of our table over here. And I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. She
Yeah.
said, why? And I look at Dave and she goes, I can never have any friends. I wasn't going to sit there and get tortured
Oh my
during
God.
my only time.
Did
I was
you ever
already
hear
close
how
enough.
he used to have the galley staff bring out habanero peppers, and Dave would sit there and watch the effects that it would have on
Make
this?
people eat it.
Yeah, and secretly put it in their food and just watch them like, oh my God. And he
No,
used to
I
laugh
didn't
his
know.
ass off.
Does not surprise me.
There's
'cause
the
it's
crew lounge
it's
area.
joy in torturing people. Yeah, that's just by the
Main entrance.
dining, and
Yeah.
just right inside there. I laid these tiles and I was on my hands and knees grouting for days.
Yeah.
And that's when that one guy who was an electrician, because I was an electrician, but at night, through the night, I was doing tile floors, said, let me take you out of here. I
The
think,
facilities were
should've left.
designed by one of the world's preeminent professional musicians. Who the hell was that?
Who knows?
Yeah. Preeminent.
All I remember is I spent Christmas white gloving this place,
Yeah.
through the night, white gloving the whole rehabilitation project force, during Christmas, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, stayed up around the clock, white gloving. But they let us have a radio and we listened to Christmas music.
Which we called the paint dryer, by the way, because you could never. The radio was a paint dryer.
The last time that I don't know what you mean by that. Paint dryer.
Because when you're on the rehabilitation project force, you had no entertainment access to any levels of entertainment, and the radio being one of them. We justified having a radio while we were working because it helped dry the paint faster. So we called the radio a paint dryer. It wasn't a radio.
Help dry the paint faster.
Yeah. So that was our justified means of listening to the radio while we were
Doesn't
working.
make any sense. If I was in charge, I would have disapproved it. No, we would like to, any chance we got. Okay, so these are the birthing buildings. They were trying to get everybody off of, out from in town and onto the base, so they never had to leave the property.
Right.
And so these birthing buildings, the whole 20 years I was there, they were supposed to be done, and then they were finally being done. The last thing I worked on was the birthing buildings before I left in 2003, and we were still at framing stage, so they finished them off after
Yeah, and
that.
believe it or
And then-
not, those buildings, by the way, were designed. These are amongst the birthing buildings, but all that white stuff, that is all building construction advancements at the time. They were built with styrofoam blockage filled with concrete for insulation and efficiency purposes and all that. At the time it was kind of new, but
Anyway, this is such a waste. They don't even
It
have
is.
the staff to fill any of these,
I know.
because they offloaded so many people, luckily.
yeah,
Those
they
people got
probably
out
only
and got
fill
lives.
at the most half of those buildings. This is what they look like.
This
on
is like a lounge, and he's saying, this is one of the lounges available for Golden Era Production staff. As if we lounge.
Yeah, like there's that TV is connected to anything but a power outlet.
It's
That's
not
it.
plugged in. It's
Yeah.
not plugged in, I can guarantee.
Yeah, guarantee you. Yeah, those are all L. Ron Hubbard videos. They're nothing like, Ghostbusters or, Dirty Dancing
No.
or anything. No real world movies there. That's all Scientology propaganda for us to
There was
watch
only
on our
one
time off.
time that there was one time that Dave had us all go down to MCI. MCI is Massacre Canyon, and it's that dining hall, that gets set up for base briefings and stuff like that. He had us all go down there, and he showed us the movie that just came out called Something About Mary, and we all sat there and watched Something About Mary. It wasn't my kind of humor, but anyway, everybody around me was laughing their asses off.
Yeah,
Matt
wow.
likes that movie. I hate it.
Well, I
Anyway,
gotta say, it's a more of a guy humor movie than anything.
I think so. And then this is one of the rooms. This was Ron Miscavige's room. When I saw this picture, I thought, "Oh, this is so fake. They staged it because they put family photos up
Right.
in the thing there because you didn't have family photos
Nope.
around, and especially in your offices." And then it says here that they had an absurd claim that they couldn't have pictures, but here's Ron's thing with pictures. So I wonder if they
Yeah.
added those in, or maybe they
Well, what
just
do you
let him
think,
do it
Amy?
because they either added him in or they let him have it because his name was Miscavige, because it wasn't regular for everybody else to have it.
Yeah.
They didn't have this when I was there, which is a laundry
Laundry
facility.
facility. Yep.
Yeah, so they have this laundry facility. And also, a full service gym is accessible to staff and visitors at Golden Era Productions 24 hours a day. Okay, it's such a lie. If you entered there, you would be assigned lower conditions. I mean, you wouldn't even think of going there. That was
I
Dave's space.
I know, and I will tell you, all that weight equipment there was a duplicate of what Arnold Schwarzenegger had.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, specifically, it was gotten for that, and that was duplicated out of Florida and on the free winds.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It says Ron Miscavige often enjoyed the use of this gym.
Oh, yeah,
The only
right.
way that was the case is if Dave
Dave
invited him to
himself.
come down
Yeah.
there and use it. Only.
Shelley actually got exclusive use for the security guards to go down there and work out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
We never used that except for maybe on Sea Org
Sea Org
Day if
Day.
there was a group activity, or something like that. But and
There
then
were
volleyball
small
court.
windows when exercise was made part of the schedule and actually enforced, and people would go out to do it, but it was so short lived.
Oh, yeah, it was knocked out instantly
Yeah.
if it ever went in.
Yeah.
I did use this par course when I was on the purification program because you're supposed to exercise, and then they have a golf course, which none of it, I never went over there, and they made
Yeah.
it look really pretty. But anyway, that's just crazy.
Memory
Craziness.
frickin' lane right there.
It's totally memory
Oh my
lane.
God, Amy.
Oh, okay. Now I got a
Going
lot
through
of
my
other things I
brain.
want to. Yes. So, one of the things that I forgot to bring up when Matt was here was there were about 250 people at the base at that time. And L. Ron Hubbard said,
At what time was this, by the way?
this was when he was there,
Yeah,
probably,
early on.
early on, probably 1980 or something like that.
Mhm.
And he said that L. Ron Hubbard said that there's a lot of counterintention. So we should ask all of the staff, if there's anyone that wants to leave, let us know, and you're free to go. And so the crew was all mustered up, and they were asked and said, if you want to leave, you're free to go, and we'll even like bus you to where you want to go and see that you get, on your way. And 70 people, 70 people came forward and said they wanted to leave, and it was a mass
Janice's
exodus.
brother was one of those, Peter Gillum Jr.
See?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, Matt was shocked that there were 70 people that came forward and they left, and no questions asked. They didn't get,
Yeah.
hounded or anything. And so they left. And then it was like, okay, good. Now we're free to get on with it without any counterintention because everybody here wants to be here.
Right.
But later it wasn't like that whatsoever, Jackson. So how did it get so draconian about keeping people there, chasing them down, the blow drill, putting the fencing down into the ground so nobody could dig under it or anything? Like, how did all of this get so draconian?
Well, you may be humored by how simple it did. For the longest time, when I first got there, I'll just start back then. There wasn't much of an actual chain link perimeter fence enclosurement of that property. Specifically, L. Ron Hubbard did not want it until one night down as what was called the greenskeeper's house, which is on the south side of the property between that exercise facility we just showed you that Dave had exclusive access to, and the main property where the original greenskeeper stayed. That was a recording studio that had a lot of equipment in it. And one night somebody went in there and stole all that equipment. It was like $40,000 worth of stuff. The reports went up. It was determined we're going to put fencing up around the property, but still make it low profile. So that started based off of that back in 1980. And with that came, let's put lighting up to light up the areas at night. And this, at the time, sophisticated but crude security system went in, and it involved fence shakers that would detect any vibrations on the fence through a simple mercury switch. There were underground sensors that picked up footstep vibrations, and it included microphones that were buried with them. And we put them inside PVC tubing, and all the wiring was run back to our original security booth over by the garage. And you could hear and see alarms activated there. And we had this whole map system with LEDs showing the different zones and the sections of the property that when the alarms were triggered, it gave us a place to go to see if somebody was there trying to enter the property. So that was the initial crude security system installed. And then when the development and designs of the property were seriously approached, with that came, we're going to do a whole new security system. We're going to make it state of the art and very effective and complete as possible. So that became very elaborate. We had to run, we extended our perimeter out to pretty much 2/3 of what it is today. It has since been expanded even bigger to what the actual perimeter is. So there's 525 acres of total owned church property out there. And I would say 200 to 300 acres that, maybe it was 200, that actually is fenced in and split between the highway. So there was a north side and a south side. And all of it still was on that basis of having every inch of the fencing being able to be monitored and react to anybody at our perimeter fence. Any sort of human presence, either walking or riding a bike, would set off an alarm, activate some lights automatically, and we would be able to listen by sound because of the underground microphones. And then the Eagle Guard would look down, and we would dispatch a roving security guard out there to respond to the alarm, to inspect the area, to see what set the alarm off. And that was our routine. There was a great deal of research that went into the thises and that's, a lot of work for installation. And eventually, when it was all done based off the original submitted design, we had to get final clearance or signed off on that it was complete and effective. And Marty Rathman was the one that did that final inspection with me, because I had to submit for it and prove that it met the standards that was submitted in our original proposal. And Marty verified it, and after 2 inspections, he certified it effective. Now, again, at that point, that was early 91. That was officially to protect the property from outside entities coming into the property. Never once was I directed previous to that to install and create the security system to keep people in. But by the nature of it, that kind of came hand in hand. Once we had an established perimeter fence with lighting and monitoring, it was later on realized, hey, people, it's not going to be so easy for people to leave. So
Right.
how it became progressively more and more flipping the coin to keeping people in is the more important concern than keeping people out from outside coming in.
Yeah.
Started with Dave's dogs.
Oh, did it? 'Cause like this person says, whose decision was it that the spikes face inward for threats supposedly from intruders?
Well, those spikes facing quote unquote inward are just by default. Like I said,
Okay.
when you set that strip of spikes on there, they point both ways. So, yeah, it wasn't. I can only say from my point that was that's the way that product came, and that's the way it is installed inward and outward. And it would just, anyways, there was no specific. We need to get a product that not only points outward but also points inward. It was never that. It just was by default.
Never kind of, stated,
Yeah.
but it did do that.
But it
did that.
eventually,
It made
yeah.
it impossible for going out and
Yep.
for coming in.
Yeah.
And so you said that it started with Dave's dogs. What happened?
When we would have our fireworks shows during the 4th of July, remember that, or Sea Day celebrations, the dogs would get scared. Chelsea went running off one day, and And Shelley used to actually assign people who in RTC were doing lower conditions and who couldn't attend the social events to watch her dogs. And Chris Geider was one of those ones. And the fireworks went off, and Chelsea eventually still escaped underneath one of the fences up by the villas and went running somewhere. We spent a solid week, 24/7, every day looking for her.
Uh-oh.
Me and Chris Geider and Georgiana Irons would be scouring town looking for Chelsea. And then a week later, or maybe just 4 or 5 days later, a day in the Sea Org seems like a week. A week seems like a month, right?
Right.
So, in terms of time in your mind. So, next thing you know, she just wandered back and just sat outside the G Unit's gate, staring at the gate, and she found her way back. So, but the order is the perimeter needed to be buttoned up so their dogs could no longer crawl out underneath the gate. So I had to go around and button up my perimeter. And then people started leaving, defeating the security system. They would get their interrogations and discovery in their interrogations to find out how they left. Oh, I climbed the tree here. And I was able to get over the perimeter fence without setting the alarm off. So when that was discovered, I'd go around and button up all the trees, trim branches, add more ultra barrier, making it impossible because I'd have to go
So the
comply
people
to the
leaving
order.
were giving you clues.
We're
about this, how
discoverers
you
of the weaknesses of my security system, but I would get orders to do it because it would come up in their interrogations, and I would therefore get an actual written order you need to comply to, and go out and do it, take pictorial evidence and submit it and get okay that's been buttoned up until the next person would take off and discover the latest and greatest way and discover my shortcomings of discovery. And even one, this kid from the audio and cinematography, some blonde haired kid he used to be married to Val, that little French girl that was one of Dave's assistants.
I know Val, but I don't know who
Yeah, he was a tall blonde-haired kid. Anyways, under the cover of night, he went out on the South 40, the southern side of the property to the perimeter fence that bordered the San Jacinto River, and which was all sand, and he dug his way out underneath the perimeter fence through sand, never touching my alarm system, and escaped. And it was like, well, it was never part of the security plan to put the fence into the ground. But I got ordered to put the chain link fence underground.
All around the whole property.
Not around the entire property, just where sand was. And that was that whole stretch. I would say it was probably at least a quarter mile long, if not more, maybe up to a half a mile long. We had to put the chain link fence 4 feet. We figured out, we had to do the math. What was it going to take? If someone was going to go through that much effort, how much chain link fence are we going to put in there to make it productive? So if someone's going to go 4 feet down, they got to come 4 feet up the other side. So we figured there's 8 feet of digging, and that's where we had the cutoff point. We were going to go 5 feet, but it's like, no, that's a whole nother foot we got to put in there somehow. So we got to dig all that out, put the chain link in, interlink it back to the chain link fence that's sticking above ground, and then put all the sand back in and do that through that quarter to half a mile length of chain link. And call compliance on it that I button up that section of it. So
right. And then it wasn't the whole time that if somebody blew that you would go chasing after them, right?
Every time that somebody was unaccounted for, we had to go find them. Yes. My numbers, Amy.
Was that always the case?
Always the case.
Really? It wasn't the case when Matt said that when someone took off, it was like good riddance.
Well, that was back in the early days, but when I was involved with security, which is part of the reason why security force was developed, was to control the staff and have people available to go track people down. Because shortly after I got in security in 1982, we're out chasing Rick Cruisen down. I was out at bus stations in Riverside County, Riverside city limits, looking to catch Rick Cruisen,
So that was early on.
That was in 1982.
That was after Matt left.
Yeah. Yeah. So
or got kicked off the property for being disaffected.
Yeah, exactly. And I just as far as I was ever involved in security, I was always looking for people. And
Okay.
during the Truth Rundown series of the St. Pete Times, Joe Childs and I did the math, and it was like somewhere in the amount of three to 400 people. Some of them repeat customers that I actually was involved with tracking down and bringing back against their will.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of people.
Yes.
Wow. The whole reason to bring them back was because they would be a security threat. They would expose things that were happening at the int base. They would speak to the media,
Yeah.
th- they're just paranoid. They're paranoid that anything that was happening at the int base would get out to anyone. Um, so that's why people would be drugged back in, and then they eventually would be able to be let go, right?
Well, yeah. Eventually, people, after a long effort by the individual and the group, um, to either resolve their desire to leave, their interest in leaving, and get them mentally interested in staying and seeing the benefits of staying and what it does for their future, salvation and all that horse capoop. Um, some people were still determined, I'm out of here. I no longer want to be here. It's like, okay, well, then you have to, this is the process for you to leave. And when you're done
Yeah.
with it, you're free to leave. So,
And it takes months.
and it takes months and there's a whole process. And even once they're through all their quote unquote counseling interrogation, it was always ended up with a videotaped signing of documents with the church
Mhm.
attorney present. And
Mhm.
that was literally on the last day just before they walked out the door. And then I had to personally inspect, or my guards inspected
All their stuff.
every little nook and cranny, every pocket of every shirt and pair of pants, and inside the shoes, inside socks, everything of theirs to make sure there's nothing indicating that they were ever tied to the int base or the Sea Organization. So, if it had a
Yeah.
Sea Org symbol or any representation of ownership to the church took possession of it, and that included photographs. If it showed other base staff, they were considered that was considered an out security, and you couldn't take it with you because they gave reference to where you came from.
Yeah.
Just crazy. It's just like imagine an FBI person in Langley, Virginia, having walked the internal walls, or the Pentagon, as an example. You couldn't take any pictures that you had of anybody inside the Pentagon because the outside world cannot see what the inside of the Pentagon looks like. That was the same theory applied to the int base. So,
Wow. So, yeah, I was subjected to that several times. I mean, there's a lot of overreach by security.
oh,
You were gone,
extensive.
but they took my cat away from me and
Yeah,
stuck him out at Happy Valley, and then I was told that got eaten by a coyote, which really upset me, because
yeah.
it was a big roundup by security. Why are they rounding up all the
I
pets
mean,
and
there was
picking them
no
up?
compassion towards the effects of the group's decisions
No,
of somebody,
we were
or
owned
about
by them.
somebody. Yeah, you were considered owned, and I had that specific conversation with church attorneys about the legalities of me going through people's personal belongings. It's like, what are my boundaries? I had that specific conversation to clarify for myself what I could and couldn't do. And it was clearly pointed out to me verbally and in writing that any property the church owns that of which Sea Org members reside on is owned by the church, and therefore we have the right to go through anything at any time without written or verbal authorization of the person occupying such space.
In
So
other words,
that
never go into a Church of Scientology, quote unquote, cult of Scientology.
never,
Yeah, never, never go in
and
there. They think they own you
they
and that they have
own you.
every right to do anything that they want to you.
Therefore, we own the property, we own anything on it, and therefore we own what they own.
Yeah, and if you're
Because
standing on it,
that
they own
was
you
even
too.
clarified, because what do I do with people's personal belongings that just up and left all their stuff behind? Well,
Mhm.
that's where I discovered the laws that after 30 days or 90 days, whatever it was, of no response from them, we legally have the right to do what we choose with their belongings. That it's just was legally deemed that as a property owner, if someone abandons their stuff, it doesn't have to sit there until they eventually come back and get it 2 days, 5 days, 5 years, 20 years later. It's not our obligation to do that. It's an understood legal fact that when you leave your personal belongings on someone else's property, that legal property owner can do what they choose after 30 or 90 days. And
Yeah. I know
believe
that
it,
that happened a lot.
It
I know
happened a
that you
lot. And
I
in
know.
fact, yeah, there's a
'Cause
lot
how
of
are you supposed
stories.
to get all your stuff? If you're gonna, take off, you're gonna be, like, hoofing it down the highway
Yeah, yeah,
because 'cause you're in
carry
the
on your
middle of
back.
nowhere.
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
middle of
you
nowhere.
can't
It
take
is,
your stuff.
and it's not like they had a lot of stuff to burn themselves with, but it certainly was bigger than a duffel bag and
Yeah.
of any level of convenience to leave. Yeah, and some people like yeah, I don't remember Jeff Walker.
Oh,
Remember when he took off? He actually
yeah, I
came
was there.
back with sheriff deputies and a U-Haul van
Good.
to be escorted to obtain his personal belongings. But
Yep,
yeah, some people were that smart to do such a thing. But
yep. Some people would like, "I'm never even stepping foot near
yeah,
that place again." Yeah, good riddance, whatever I had, you know, it's too bad.
God, I'm
Um,
so glad that I'm
so
not there.
so I know, and, I know. There's a couple things I wanted to ask you about because I was there, um, and just to further just elaborate, so we talked about the blow drill. Did you finish kind of talking about what all that entailed, or did you
Well, the
wanna
blow drill came about over years of agony of being squeezed and ordered and just the vice grip around my toes for lack of other thing. How much pressure I would be put under that I had to find these people. And I not being the only one, but being the security chief, they were my people I was responsible for getting back, and somehow my security system let them out. So I had to develop through trial and error over years how to figure out how to find somebody, and I became pretty goddamn good at it to the point where I somebody would leave. I remember her name was Melissa. Remember Melissa Uvitzel?
Melissa Uvitzel. Yeah.
She took off, had no idea where she was going, but because when you know something so well, you know the right string to pull and the right action to take right off the bat. And for some reason, I was just like, "This is where she's going." Uwe and I hopped in a car and literally arrived at LAX 5 minutes before she did in a taxi. I don't know, it was just intuition, but I just was like, "Yep, I know how to do this now." And it kind of gained me stature of Jackson's your go-to man on how to find people now. It was a weird situation I found myself in that,
So
holy shit, Jackson, you found her fast. It's like, yeah, man. I mean, it's just that environment, those conditions.
I know that RTC, like Marty in RTC, every day, first thing in the morning, he was
I would
asked
get
by
a
David
phone call.
Miscavige. Every day, David Miscavige asked as his first question, "Who blew?"
I would
You
either
know?
get a phone call by Marty or Dave himself. Who
Yeah.
blew? It wasn't like
Yep.
hello. It was just the phone and ring. Who blew?
Yep.
Nobody, sir.
Yep.
Okay,
Now
and then
my
hang up.
question is, at that airport, um, what did she do? Did she saw you 2 and then
Well, yeah,
how'd you
the
get her in the
staff
car?
members are just resolved when they see us there. Just like they have nowhere to run. They know that the jig's up. It actually
That
became
sucks
easy
so bad.
because every staff member knew what it took to leave and the secrecy it involved, but they were only limited on their knowledge of how to be secretly leaving. So I had the advantage of knowing what information I could obtain where they're thinking they're flying under the radar, but they're not because they're flying under the radar that I know how the radar works.
Yeah.
And I would
So
defeat them at their own little efforts.
that blow drill got exported to other bases
Well,
like
yes,
Flag.
and I actually had to draw up and document, and I don't say this to be proud of it, but, Marty claims to be the originator. Marty's the one that approved my final stated documented version what the blow drill is. So whatever the fuck, it's
And he
just,
was running you to get it done.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was being squeezed to get it. So it was over years, and I spent years developing how to do it. I was collecting information on all the staff. I built files on every base staff member, whether they'd blown or not, of information out of the mail, their bank account information, their family names, their family addresses. So whenever somebody go missing, all I had to do is pull a file out, and instead of going out to their personal birthing to seek out this information, I already had a majority of it in the folder, and I could start acting right away, and therefore undercut their effort. I had scanners set up to monitor the local the taxis radio traffic on request to pick up people around our birthing. So I had my guarded eagle listening to that. I would send people to local public transportation locations, such as bus transfer, transit sites, or to the Greyhound bus stations. And then, we didn't have the need to call motels and hotels right away because people typically did not go right to a motel and check
Right.
in. So I wouldn't get on that action right away, but within the first 5 or 6 hours, we would start hitting up, calling local motels and hotels and acting as though you're their brother or concerned family member or their husband or their wife, calling to see if
Just
my
lie.
husband's there. Yeah, and taking advantage of society's weak security procedure at the time, even so much so we can call airlines and act as though we are a family. Yeah, I'm at the airport here to pick up my sister, but I don't know if her flight's arrived yet. Can you check blah blah? And they would run the person and happily tell us whether they're on the flight or not on the flight. That was our initial way to deal with that. We could call phone companies and get people's phone records. We can call banks and inquire about my bank account or my brother's bank account and be given that information. So there was a lot out in society that was in front of our face that people didn't realize that I took advantage of.
Right.
So, yeah, had that at play
Yeah.
for many of years.
And that did get those functions got exported to other properties
Yeah,
because
because of the
Dave
success. Yeah,
Dave started going to the other properties and yeah, because of success.
and
You were
yeah,
you were good at your job, but your job it was very criminal. It was very
Amy, I
criminal.
was a guard of a modern day Nazi camp, is what I was.
That's really what I'm thinking.
That there's nothing more truer to say that than that. Yeah, that truly is
Yeah.
what I was. I was a guard of a modern day Nazi camp.
And I was in there, like you couldn't just leave the property. I always
No,
you had to get, okay, security wouldn't open the gate unless I had approval. And if my name was on a stupid perimeter council list, then I couldn't leave. And I had
yeah,
to go sleep at the swamp. And all you guys had at the stupid swamp for me to sleep in was one of these trailers. And I'm not blaming this on you, it was the situation there. But were these trailers with ants and freaking, mice running around
shitty
and stuff like
conditions.
that.
Yeah, they were very
Really bad. And I was
inhuman
out there
conditions.
one time for 2 months. I'm going to ask you about this thing because you have information on it, and I think it needs to be told. And so I was out at the swamp. David Miscavige assigned me out there, and it was over something that my husband at the time did and that I didn't even know about. He attended an event that Dave didn't appreciate that he attended. And so he sent my husband to the RPF for 4 years and sent me under watch for 2 months out at the swamp. So I'm showering out there and being under guard and doing heavy manual labor. And I see Mark Yeager, who was my boss for many years, living in a little trailer thing there and surrounded by a bamboo cage, basically, that he had to build himself.
By himself.
And
Yeah.
you were security at the time, and you told me many years ago, but after we left, what you observed there, and I'd like you to tell people.
All right, so I'll just start at the point in which Dave Miscavige took Mark Yeager down from his executive position. I was called out to that location, what was known as the old Gilman House or OGH area, which was on the north side and western end of the property. It no longer fit. None of the buildings exist anymore because of the bad, disgusting history that existed out there. Dave had it all bulldozed and leveled. So
The
that
swamp's
was
still there, though.
the swamp itself is because geographically that's, naturally that's where all the water runs to. So they'd have to, anyways, yes, the swamp still exists there, but I was called out to OGH and met Dave, Larice, and Shelley and Mark Yeager out there. And that was when I saw Dave himself physically punch Mark Yeager in the chest 5 or 6 times, and seeing Mark's eyes bugging. I mean, Mark, he had a rather large set of eyeballs in his head. Not to, body shame him, but that was a significant way in which you would identify him as like, yeah, he has large eyes and slightly balding hair. But when he was getting punched, you can see the impact that it had on him because his eyes got really big. Dave ripped his shoulder boards off of his shoulder, his insignia that he had on his epaulets on his shirt,
He was a commander or a
Yeah, he was
captain
in charge of, yeah, he was high ranking and a high, long standing church executive.
in Scientology terms, not in real terms,
Yeah,
but you
not,
know,
yeah.
he was the
And,
Watchdog Committee chairman.
and
So he
Dave
was
ripped his name tag
right.
off of his shirt and just basically belittled him right then and there and was calling him the most vulgar descriptions that you can imagine that will come out of a human being's mouth of what a bad individual Mark Yeager is and how he was. Dave discovered this human being that is trying to destroy Scientology. And I was just in my own conflict that I never saw anything behind any evidence behind what was coming out of Dave's mouth that he was accusing Mark of being or having done. But he was making it very clear that this, from this point forward, Mark Yeager is to call anything and everything with a pulse, sir, whether it be a dog, a bird, a human being, another RPFer, anybody and anything, Mark had to call sir. He was to have no, I was having all these orders barked at me of, just by my presence and being called out there, I knew something was going to be given to me that I'm now responsible for. In this case, it was Mark Yeager.
Yeah.
So Dave was just announcing the state in which we were to treat him, which is absolutely the most in the most disgusting way. No, he deserves no special treatment. If he needs a shower, it just was just all this incredible stuff that I couldn't believe. But I was painting the picture that, man, this guy screwed up. I don't know what he did to be pissed Dave off so bad, but he's now my responsibility. So Dave asked me what I was going to do with him, what kind of mess work he had to do. So I had to
Mest
come up.
is matter, energy, space, and time. It's like physical labor.
Yeah, physical. What kind of physical labor? I'm sorry. When you go down this rabbit hole, your mind's back there at the time. So I'm just
And
kicking
now
out
people are
church.
saying stop calling it a church.
Yeah.
It just slips out sometimes. So yeah,
Believe me,
we
I'm
mean
right there
cult.
with you people.
Every
It is
time
not a church. It is
I know
not a
every
church.
time we say church, we mean cult, and
It's an insult
you
to the valued meaning of what church identifies. Scientology represents nothing
none of
attached
that.
to a
Yeah,
definition of a church. And I
yeah,
wholeheartedly agree with you folks that they don't
yeah.
deserve to be called a church because they are not a
Right,
church. So
right. Yeah. So carry on.
apologize, folks.
All right.
So I had to come up. See, part of the trickery and my tools of my trade is I had to think long term. What would occupy this individual for the longest time, not requiring me so much effort to keep constantly coming up with jobs. So I went ding, ding, ding. Mark can hand de-weed, unweed the whole swamp area by hand. And that is just labor intensive. It's isolated. It's all by himself. So that's what I told him I was going to have him do. And Dave was like, that's a fabulous idea because it's disgusting and stinky. And, I didn't think of the consequences it was having on Mark. To be honest with you, I didn't give a shit. And that sounds bad, but I had nowhere on my thought processes. Well, what are my decisions? What are the effects going to be on this individual of my decisions and choices? But the worse and grosser that it sounded to Dave's ears, the happier he was. So I solved that immediate problem as to what he was going to do. It had long-term capabilities of keeping him occupied. And then I had to figure out that same night where I was going to have him sleep because he could not have any interaction with any other human being except for me as a security guard and whoever from RTC came to see him. So I had realized that Martin Reed had he personally owned a pull behind little RV trailer that was big enough for a couple to comfortably travel and go camping with or something. And it was over by the original generator on the property. Remember over by Rowan's, the Horwich house, Amy?
I stayed in it when my husband visited me one time after not seeing him for months.
Your 2D time? Yeah. So I went and asked Martin. I said, Martin, can we utilize your trailer, your RV? I need to set up it for a staff member. It'll be out at OGH. And he was like, fine, it just sits there anyway. So I towed it over there and that became the old little place for Mark to set up. And then I came up with the idea he could start making his own bamboo fence.
That was your idea?
That was my idea, Amy.
Okay.
Because I had to keep him. So if people randomly came out there, the grounds crew coming out there to trim the trees or something, or or some of the building engineers to fix a sprinkler or water break. Nobody could just innocently trip across him. If they were to walk out there, nobody had any reason to go in the swamp except for Mark Yeager. So he literally was on the edges of the swamp there, and he just progressively over time cut down all that bamboo by hand, just with a small little saw or whatever small a device. It required maximum effort with little toolage to do all that, and that's all he did all day long for months.
Yeah, and it was a fence that was like 8 feet tall or something.
Yeah,
It wasn't just a small
it
little
wasn't just
fence.
you
It
know,
was like
to
build
keep
a
a puppy
compound
dog
for
in.
him.
No, it was
No.
purpose to have height to block field of view in there, and we figured 8 foot would be good, and that bamboo is a good 12, 15 foot long, so
Yeah.
at least, so there's plenty of supply. And I got him wiring, and we figured out how do you build a bamboo fence. So he figured out how you band it all together, and that's all he did is chop it and laid it out and wired it up and stood it up. And
Yeah,
that
so he was
became
made
his
to
thing.
build his own cage.
His own compound. Yes.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I saw it with my own
No.
eyes.
That's
So
all he
now
did all
Dave,
day long. He lost so much weight.
I know,
He got so much tan and
'cause
everything
he was
all day
just
long.
slaving outside all
All
day.
day long, that guy ran around with that petrified look on his face. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, to witness a human being in that state of mind and fear all
This
the
is
time,
exactly, it's where David wanted him. That's
that's
exactly where Dave wanted him.
it
But
was
now,
incredible.
now
I am
Dave
not
would visit him.
sensationalizing this, folks, at all. Just so you
Oh,
know,
I
this
know.
is not.
I saw it.
Yeah, this
I
is
saw
not
it with my own eyes. That's why I wanted to talk to you about
Yeah,
it because, and also just put it on record because I saw it. I wanted to know exactly what happened. I worked with him he was my boss for like 18 years. I knew him really well. Um, and I saw him behind this cage thing that was built because I was stuck out there as well in a different trailer, and we happened to use the same. There was only one bathroom that could be used out there, and so we had to time it so that we wouldn't like, cross paths,
right.
because security was making sure that he didn't come into contact with one single person. But anyway, so now Dave would visit him. Tell me what happened then, and you were there.
Oh, he would just come up and discuss the latest things that came up in his interrogations. And it was just a constant, it was very random. And it just seemed like Dave was coming out there to entertain himself. That was kind of like something that I realized at the time. It's like, this is like more of a self-satisfying Dave getting this upset out and taking it out on Mark. I don't know. But again, you're putting that mystery sandwich factor that what I do know is I don't know why Dave's here and why he's so upset. He's got to be, if he's so upset, it's got to be legitimate. So you would just handle your own questioning as to what's happening in front of me simply because of the leader, our dear leader was so upset. This can't be just a vicious attack just because he chooses to. He's doing it because Mark deserves it. It's just a state of mind and understanding you conclude for yourself to try to put reasoning to what you're witnessing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
trying to put
that was.
logic.
I mean, just to say, yeah, I agree with this. Trying to make something make sense. Like that's when the lights turned on for me was when I realized I was rationalizing insanities.
Yeah,
Like
that's exactly
I'm seeing things like Mark Yeager in a cage or Dave beating these people or whatever, and I'm going, he must really deserve it. All these different things. I was just rationalizing, and when my mind stopped doing that, woo, full Technicolor,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, I got to figure out my fastest way out of here.
It was even Dave would be so pissed off at Mark that I don't know if anybody's ever noticed somebody being so upset and they try to jump on their bike and pedal away or try to put their bike in gear. They're so upset they can't get their gear in and they end up, pulling the clutch too easy and they're just like, you fucker, you made me, Dave would leave so upset. He would almost wreck his bike just trying to leave. It just, that whole thing was on display in front of me. And I'm like, and again, every time that would happen, it would at least every day for the first few weeks. Because you knew
He
there
would
was,
come out there every
yeah,
day?
he would come out there because
See, he's
the
obsessed with his
yeah, yeah,
little project, his little
yeah.
guinea pig that he's got out there that he's toying with. Did he ever hit him in your
Oh
presence?
yeah, Amy. That's was my first introduction of Dave actually physically, and I'm not just talking. Oh, right on, Mark. Good job, buddy. Or hey, you pissed me off. It was full on like rear back, bam, bam, like with intent. And Shelly and Lou and I would kind of stand there and look. Our eyes would look. Our heads wouldn't turn, but we'd all look at each other with our eyes like, wow. Even they didn't realize what was coming. So, um, and again, you're just trying to put reason to the insanity. And what I do know is I don't know. Even so much so, I remember that was when Dave actually publicized a declare order on Mark Yeager, publicized it to the whole base, so the whole base knew that Mark Yeager has fallen from grace. He is a true SP, yada yada yada, and he even put Michelle, his precious, beautiful
Wife of
wife.
many
She was
years.
of many, many years. She was just a fabulous gal. But he put her on display simply by association and
Well,
made
she
her
didn't want to
divorce.
get a divorce,
No, but
so that was
she was forced to divorce him. I mean, for years it was just Mark and Michelle were kind of like on a pedestal of an ideal relationship in that world. They
yeah.
were like a
I just
perfect match for each other.
I just want to go back to the punching because I've witnessed Dave Miscavige beat people, and I've written a book about it. I went to the FBI about it. I did everything I could about it. I've been speaking out about it for ages on every platform around the world because the place is run by a sociopath that's seriously abusive. If it wasn't bad enough that the cult under L. Ron Hubbard, oh my God. Okay, but I wanted to he came and saw Yeager every day. Did he hit him every day? Like what was
Not every day. I mean, he got up in his
did he
face,
really
but
hit him? I remember you telling me about just over and over and over again
yeah,
that
yep,
he hit him.
yeah.
What do you know? Tell me.
Well, I mean, again, this was the second time I had actually seen him ever hit anybody. The first time was me seeing him hit Mark Fisher, but
Yeah.
this was some special stink behind every time he'd punch him. And sometimes Dave would go down into that bamboo compound that Mark built for himself, and all I can hear is the voice being raised. But I used to see him, the dust would be kicked up because Dave would be chasing around that, punching at him.
Stupid idiot,
Yeah,
man.
and you could hear the fist hit raw
He
skin, bare skin, because Mark never
was
wore a shirt at that point, and you could
Yep.
just hear the impact.
Yep.
And Dave would come out in his uniform, black uniform shoes or white shoes, depending on the uniform we were in at the time, blues or whites. They would be covered in that moon dust that was notoriously known for around the property.
Yeah. How long was Mark there?
Amy, I'm hesitant to put a timestamp on it because it carried on. He was in the shits.
It was a long time.
It was
It was
it
a
was
long
at
time.
least a solid year because
Yep.
he went down, taken off that when I was still a security chief. I then fell out of grace a few months after he went down, but yet he was still under watch. But he was also now part of another arrangement, and that's where he was twinned up with Biddy on a
That was well, he got sent to the Rehabilitation Project Force after being at least a year in this cage. Then he finally got sent to the Rehabilitation Project Force in Happy Valley.
Well, hold on. There was actually an RPF, a special RPF was set up with only Biddy and Mark, where Mike Sutter was set up as the RPFIC, the quality
Oh,
out
I
of
should have
trailers
watched a
just
video
up
about
from
that.
OGH. Yeah. So
Oh, I didn't know any of
Dave
that.
assigned him to the RPF, but he didn't want him interacting with actual RPF because, again, he still wanted him isolated. But Biddy pissed him off so much that he decided to use Biddy to twin up with Mark and put Mike Sutter in charge of supervising them through their RPF program. So to Dave fit the environment to his desires. So in a normal Sea organization members world, when you get assigned the RPF, you're going to an established entity, a group of people that it's one place. Dave was like, he's going to be on the RPF, but we're going to make these arrangements to my liking and get Mike
Yeah.
Sutter to oversee it and keep them separate from, but they're going to be following RPF guidelines and
Yeah,
policies and
they
programs.
also didn't want any of the information to leak the base. That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
why it was under wraps so much. Because Biddy getting busted, she was Inspector General,
Yep.
so her getting busted, and then Mark, who was WC chairman. These are his two
Yeah,
direct
I
juniors.
know.
Okay,
Hello.
Dave, and so now I understand that Mark Yeager blew. He blew. Were you there when he blew?
Not when I was there, but it don't surprise me at all. Does it? It shouldn't surprise
He made it all
anybody.
the way into Hemet, and he blew from the Happy Valley, apparently,
Yeah.
and
Well,
he made it all the way into Hemet, and then I guess Greg Wilher and whoever, Mike Sutter, and all these people went chasing after him in a van and basically black bagged him, stuck
yep.
him in the van, and got
They,
him
they
back, and he's still
literally,
there to this day.
and yeah, it's hearsay, but you know what? It's an educated understanding and fact based off of my educated history that, yep, that's very real that that actually happened.
Yeah,
I didn't witness it, but it doesn't surprise me to hear
yeah,
that
me
is the
either. I mean,
story.
Claire was there when that happened in
Well, there you
RTC,
go.
so
So,
that's where I found out. Yeah, because that, and also Mike knew. Anyway, that really was upsetting that he actually almost made it off the property. He made it off the property, but he didn't make it all the way out.
God, can you
That's why I
imagine?
hate this blow drill thing so bad. Anyway,
Well, sorry for even having created it, Amy.
well, you have also told the FBI everything.
I've
You
told them
know,
everything.
I know that for a fact, and also every little detail about what Scientology does in order to track somebody down and everything like that,
Yep.
because it goes to human trafficking. They
Yeah.
confiscate your passports, they confiscate your ID, they make sure that you don't have money, anyway, they're just such a dangerous, disgusting cult, and authorities need to do something about it. What are we going to do? We're going to keep speaking out, but what are we going to physically do besides making the information known?
Right.
I'm just going to keep speaking until I have no freaking voice is what I'm going to do, because
Yeah.
David Miscavige is still in charge, and he should be in prison.
Minimally.
And
I mean, if there's something
their
beyond prison,
policies.
he deserves it. I don't know what is
Yeah.
beyond prison, but he deserves it. I guess in
Yeah.
on U.S. soil, that's the worst that we've chosen to, put known criminals in is prison. But
Yeah.
even prisons have been lightened up to today's, oh, that's too rough a treatment, or the original idea they're out breaking rocks with sledgehammers. I mean, even Dave himself saw to it that I saw to it that Marty, that Ray Minoff and Mike Sutter and Harold O'Hara broke a 7-foot tall cinder block concrete filled wall down with sledgehammers, 8-pound sledgehammers that they physically cannot. He wanted them doing that just because he could, knowing the physical demands they will put on them and belittle them, and basically swinging a frickin' sledgehammer to break this wall down by hand that otherwise should have just been bulldozed and be done with. No, he wanted them to break it down. Anyways, the sadistic.
Ray Midoff, and Harold O'Hare. Harold O'Hare was the case supervisor for Nicole Kidman,
Yep.
and so Nicole didn't want to continue in Scientology, so Harold O'Hare had to go break
Dave was
rock.
upset at that she was technically responsible for Nicole falling out of favor with the church, and she
Yep.
had to pay her
Yep.
dues. And I saw her stand there by Dave's orders that out of his mouth came, they are to shower through the use of a garden hose. And she had to stand there in her bra and underwear,
In front of the other
at
guys that
night.
she was assigned to.
Yeah,
The
freezing
men.
water. Yeah. And they themselves, Norman and Ray, had at least had the respect to turn their backs, to give her some privacy, but Dave wanted them all to be standing around each other while they showered through the use of a garden hose.
Right. Yeah.
Frickety
That's really.
frackers, man.
He kept coming up with the worst things, like turn the sprinklers on the people who were
Well,
sleeping in
see,
out on the.
I went up to Dave and I told him, I said, "Sir, I just want to let you know I did turn the sprinklers off so they wouldn't go on in the middle of the night and disrupt their sleeping." And he goes, "No, turn them back on so they use that as their alarm clock." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, leave them on so they come on, and that's the way they wake them up." it just sadistic. So I had to go over there and
Yeah.
turn him back. I thought I was doing something good by telling him, sir, I saw to it that they're, just paying attention. How disgusting and odd that would be for to be sleeping out here and the suddenly sprinklers go on and freezing cold. And he goes, no, turn them back on. I'm like, what the frickety frack?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
sir.
so
And you're forced to do it.
Hera, yeah, and Hera and Ray and Norman, so they had to sleep outside, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Dave ridiculed the crap out of him. I mean, I'll never forget. Nori went off in town to buy all this camping gear. And then Dave and Shelly and Lou and I and somebody and Nori were standing around Norman Starkey, Ray Midoff, Hera O'Hare, and they were surrounded by this pile of camping gear. And it ranged from like a handheld flashlight. They had to put the batteries in to get those working. These guys have no idea. These were church executives that basically
Church.
were,
Cult
yeah,
executive.
cult executives. They were, that all they'd ever seen was an administrative position. They'd never been out the 10, 15 years they've been in those positions, done any manual labor, They didn't have the physical ability to suddenly one day pushing paper and talking on the phones to the next day they're out doing this hard physical labor. And Dave stood around, he was holding his own flashlight, and they were trying to read the directions of how to assemble these tents. And Dave was ridiculing Norman Starkey. It's like, God, if only the rest of the Sea Org knew that Captain Norman Starkey can't even assemble a tent.
Yeah,
Just
he
to
was like
belittle
that.
him.
I mean, when I talked to Biddy last week, Biddy told me how Dave showed her pictures of Norman Starkey in diapers because
Yeah,
David Miscavige and Norman Starkey, he was probably 60 years old or something, or 65 or something at the time, was ordered to get into diapers
yeah,
by David Miscavige and to photograph himself in diapers. And Dave had the diapers, and he's like giddy over it. Dave is a certain kind of sick, and there's a lot of
sir.
stories like this, and we've been trying to get something done about it. But I wanted to talk to you because, of your intimate knowledge. I know this stuff too, and I just want, yeah, you were there with me, so we both saw
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And not even together. We just saw different versions of the same sociopath doing his
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yet this is the person that we were loyal to, that that's the mind trickery of it, is that we still stuck around yet another day after witnessing what and we didn't even realize how screwed up it was what we were witnessing,
oh no,
but contributed to the effort that we were more focused on the individual that Dave was executing his sociopathness, if that's a word, onto, and that person for some reason was deserving. I didn't know the reason, but I
yeah,
mean, it literally could have been Tom Cruise out there one day Dave was doing that to, and I would have had the same reasoning. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
wow, Dave discovered something. Because yeah, I mean, how many? I could go on for hours of just the hundreds.
So it really gets to the point where your mind snaps, and you actually will wake up and start seeing things for the way they are. It was like a light switch for me. It was a
Well,
light switch.
so Amy, exactly. That's the only way that I ever described it. With literally, I remember that exact light switch for myself,
Is that
where
right?
absolutely, and it was a millisecond. It wasn't
Yeah.
progressive over a few days. It was from
No.
here on out, and it washes out of your system, as out of your
Yes.
soul, when you just resolve. It's like no turning back. What the fuck? I mean, literally, you start
That's how I
turning.
was.
Yeah, it's like go fuck yourself. And this all sounds good enough, but suddenly I'm like, yes sir, yes sir, and then the next minute it's go fuck yourself. You mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. You just
Yeah.
and you don't turn evil. It's just you start defending yourself, your own survivability, and you recognize this is the way out. I got to stand strong for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you begin that process. And for me, it was my light switch was recognizing that how messed up it was that they turned my own wife against me,
Yeah.
and I had
Yeah. I did hear
nothing to
that
do with it.
story. Right. I did hear that story, and I'm glad the light switch went off on you, Jackson, because you're here. Um, yeah. So,
I'm not here with
the
my
whole
wife
thing
though,
is,
Amy. I'll tell you that. I
I
know
know.
you.
I
I know
I
you
know
know
that
that.
story. I know that story, and it's super sad, and it's, a result of Scientology and their
Yeah.
cult activities, you know? So but there's gonna be something wonderful for you in the future because you are such a good person. I love you. And you just have a really good heart. So, I really wanna thank you for telling all of this today, and we've got a bunch of questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and, start taking some of those. Do you mind?
Oh, absolutely. I'd
Is
love
there anything else you
interacting.
wanted to say beforehand?
No, I mean, there's so much I
Okay.
could say. I'm just, well, let's, I like paying
Yeah,
attention to
okay.
the people who've taken so much time to come here and
Yes,
hang with
yes, thank
us.
you, everybody. There's a bunch of questions. So this says, question Jackson, I hope you don't take this question the wrong way, but did you ever think to yourself why you were being directed to make it so impossible to escape the base? What were your thoughts?
So let's see. Uh, did you ever think to yourself why you were being directed to make it so impossible to? Not initially, but eventually, when that it was part of my light switch. It was a realization that grew from my initial light switch moment that this is not what I ever knew it to be. This is not what is presented to me to be. Truly, that I recognize as not being a church. This is not going the way that I knew L. Ron Hubbard intended it, yada, yada, yada. But, you just start concluding bit by bit. It's like, oh, I did this as a security system. That's why, because it was more self-serving to keep people in. I did this. That was to bring people back against their will. And what Dave considered, when all these people that I chased down on his behalf and brought back to the base was what I came to recognize as loose cannons at rough seas for Dave. They all had information about, within themselves that could bring Dave down. And that was why there was so much intense attention by him of
He's in
who,
paranoid.
yeah, in
Paranoid.
paranoid state, paranoid. I mean, literally getting a phone call from that little dude on the phone. You never forget his voice and the tone in which he would ask, anybody blow? And
Mhm.
if my answer was yes, sir, who was it? What are you doing to get him? And he would just hang up it was valuable to him to get an answer when he called, but there was no amount of respect applied to your answer and you being there
Of
to be
course
able to
not.
answer that question for him. He just treated you like shit. And yeah, so I hope
I
that
worked
answers
in
your
the
question.
same, you know, around that man for like 18 years. I was there for 20 years, but he wasn't always up there. So about 18 years worth of treatment from this person. And it's just, it hasn't totally worn off of me. I
I
can
got to
tell you
tell you,
that, like
Charles
the effect
Manson
of
and,
it.
and Jeffrey Dahmer deserve more respect than Dave Miscavige. I got to say.
Oh, I don't think either them do. And I wouldn't ever compare it. So I wouldn't say something like that, but
Well, I'm sorry.
I would say that he deserves zero respect, that's for
Zero,
sure.
zero, zero,
Whoops, I
zero.
just unstarred something that I was just about to put up, but I'm sorry. Okay, there you go. It says, your experiences are so enlightening, helping to prevent others from joining the cult of Scientology. The suffering you all endured is heartbreaking, such psychological and physical abuse. I
Yes.
know. I know. Um,
We didn't even know it's
I hope it
psychological
does.
abuse when we were there. We did not know that it was psychological abuse. I got to say,
Not at all. We didn't even know that we were a cult at all.
or doing physical abuse.
No. So, question, Jackson, as a security guard for Scientology, what is the strangest thing you have seen, and did you actually see someone escape?
The list is long, but I will zero in on one particular. There was this. You guys may have heard of the computerized version of the computerized arm of Scientology, referenced as INCOM, short for International
Network of
Computerized of
communication.
Organized
Yeah.
Management, something like that. But basically, it was the in-house IT information technology world of Scientology that one of the staff members, Tom Romahart, found himself connected to the outside world and feeding information people that he found inquiring about Scientology. So he's innocently giving away internal documents to the outside world. From the Scientology standpoint, that was a freakish situation. I was brought in and put in charge of security for a Scientology driven project slash mission. Mission is a C organization term used for where a group of people are formed to go out and address a particular situation within the church and see to that it is brought under control and good results come from it. ultimately. So that involved us going out there and me meeting with Dave and being given instructions that in absolutely no way is any of these people to ever leave. You are to see to it 1,000% that these nobody leaves, nobody blows. So I had to come up with a plan on how to corral all these human beings and put control on them and make them feel confined and controlled at 24/7 and catch them off guard. So we had to rush in there. And it was just a whole series of stuff. I got into secret electronic surveillance, thousands of dollars spent on equipment to surveil people. I had a camera staring at some guy 24/7. I had all three rooms that he was occupying wired for stereo sound and color cameras. I installed the whole system myself, even put up stuff to avoid him jumping out through the windows. If you guys have ever seen the big blue building in Los Angeles that says the Scientology, white Scientology letters up, the third floor up was one of those windows that I had to make it incapable for somebody jumping out and escaping or committing, that whole thing, ending their existence efforts. It was all sorts of stuff, and that went on for months. And I did not realize the significance of how many souls that I completely rattled deeply. That had a major, major impact, but because of the things that I did, that is just a significant wake up call. So that's just one of many,
Okay.
routine, crappy things.
Okay. This is from Purple Groovy. She says, Queen Bee, King Hornet, and Action Jackson. When you guys left, that was the beginning of the end of Scientology. Well, yeah, a lot of people left. I think David Miscavige was the beginning of the end of Scientology,
Yeah, no,
honestly,
agreed. I dig that title by
Um,
Purple Groovy.
yeah,
Just
but
something.
I'm so happy that we're all out,
Yes,
and there's so many people that are still there that I really, really
that are
wish
friends
were
of
out.
ours. I know.
The place needs to be closed down. Just lock the doors and say, everybody, just go back to any family you have. And if you don't have a family, the
Yeah,
Aftermath Foundation will help you. You know,
yeah, that's right.
it's just, yeah. So this person wants to know what happened to the guys that were running the bulldozer. Did
Oh,
they make it out okay?
oh, yeah.
That
There was no life lost during that I ever heard of. They
okay.
abandoned
Matt
that
said he
equipment.
always wondered, but never knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't know. Question: was the main reason for all the security at that point to protect LRH from the authorities, or what were they so afraid of?
Well, if it intentionally was, it was never directly exposed to me. But yes, of course, the defense, the security system was protecting people and property. So life and property were being protected. So yes.
Okay. This is question: did you ever think to blow your post, or go into town all night? Who would know except for the person with you could take them with you and then not come back
Well, I had the luxury as a security chief to go to off base berthing, basically the apartments where all the staff lived. The only
during the day?
reason, I'm sorry.
During the day when nobody was there?
Yeah, nobody was there during the day, during the night, whenever. I had that luxury because it was my job to see to it that wherever the base staff occupied a space, I saw to it that it was secure for them to not be distracted by distraction. So I often went off into town and I literally would just, on my way to birthing, I go to In and Out and get some In and Out and then go sit at birthing and sit back in the shadows and just see if anything. And that led to me discovering people coming into our properties and going through birthing unannounced to us. So
People?
yeah, well, just local kids, punks hopping the walls and
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. And I caught a bunch of kids doing it. So, that's where I learned that part of security is sitting back in the shadows and just watching what happens while everybody's away. So,
I think you guys implemented a watch out at the birthing sites after
well,
that.
that was born about through a whole nother, we can go through a whole nother episode on life-changing event for that, how that came about, Amy. That
Oh,
was,
really?
yeah. Yes, we
Uh,
did. But at one time, everybody freely lived out there and that was a place they rested their head. But eventually people took off from it and then we had to secure that. But it wasn't owned by the church. We were renting a property.
yeah.
So we were limited on the control points we could do, but we didn't stop us from putting that imposing fact into people's minds, our own staff out there. Even at birthing, you can't get away from.
Yeah. Yeah. I started this because I think it's funny. I love the leopard print and me looking mighty fine lady, and then it's
Yeah.
from Grr Roar.
Roar.
I thought that was funny because
Yeah.
of leopard prints.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's pretty cool.
so Frida says, "What would it take for a regular staff person to sit at Dave's table? Did it ever happen?" No, no,
Nope.
nobody really, unless he had a purpose to be talking to you or
Yeah.
ordering you to do something. Definitely, you didn't go to his table.
Right.
I was invited to go sit at the table for Shelley as her friend, and I didn't want to do it. She was upset that I wouldn't do it, but I'm sitting one table over. Okay, you come over here. I was close enough to Dave. I just didn't, and I told her he was the reason why I didn't want to go over there. That was kind of bold of me, actually. I
That
didn't really
is, I gotta
say the
say.
I didn't say the words. I just looked at him and nodded like
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah.
But
Duh.
anyway, yeah, 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 because this is my only time, and it's when you're in his space, you're paying attention to him. You're not just like doing your own thing, laughing. He'll criticize anything that you say. It's like I'm not going to be there. I don't,
Yeah.
forget it. It's already bad enough.
Yep.
Okay, this is Love Sherlock says jail, prison, keeping people, Sea Org, from blowing, escaping. Yeah, Scientology is a church, quote unquote. Tax them. Yeah, they should be shut down.
Yep.
Meantime, get all their back taxes too, because that would bankrupt them.
God, I even remember Amy just because of security.
Thank you,
Because
Peace Dog.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like PAC, the LA organizations and buildings, and the Manor Hotel CC, the Celebrity Center International. I used to be sent down to those security forces and train them and broaden their views on their perspectives of what security was. And one night I went down to CC and I proved to them that I could defeat their security system, and I'll prove to them how. And they had no idea. So I went off and I climbed up the outside of the CC building because of all the engravings that were in the external walls, the facing. I climbed up the second floor to the fire escape and came in, and I knocked on the security door, and they were flabbergasted. How did I get in? But I used to go do that because I was so, it was, it was proud at the time because I was so good at my job. I would be utilized to go take what I established at the base and export it to other areas of the church.
One of the reasons why we needed to increase security at Celebrity Center, and this is probably around the time that you were asked to do that, because I had to hire professional security guards that were Secret Service.
Yeah.
I went down and interviewed a bunch of, private people for that, security people.
The stories I heard from go ahead.
Ended up hiring this guy named John Plavala. He was their security for a long time. I don't know where he is now, but he was a former Secret Service for Reagan, and not the day that he got shot. But anyway, so because during a gala event, it may have been the Christmas one, Charles Durning was there, John Travolta was there, Kelly Preston, Juliette Lewis, Maxine Nightingale, all these people were participating, and process servers for a court case served them all.
Yep, I
at
remember
Celebrity
that night.
Center.
I remember that night.
It was a huge flap. So I had to hire security. Anyway, that's probably why you additionally went down to try to drill these people too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this next one says, Sarowin says, my questions and or comments are no way to accuse Jackson of anything. Just wanted to make that clear. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, to say that to you, Jackson. Yeah.
Oh.
And any of my questions too, I just want this information to be on record. And and I know your heart. You've been to the FBI. You've been speaking out, the whole time. The second that we asked you to corroborate some of the stuff for the Tampa Bay Times, when we first did that, you were on board. And you came to my house.
Yep.
You stayed with us for a little while when we were in Washington. And that's when we found out that Mike Rinder was out. And so we were messing with OSA, and you called OSA.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
You remember that? Yes, I remember
I called in to the president's office as an AP reporter saying, we understand Mike. Yeah. Just to rattle their cage.
Mike Rinder has just blown.
Yeah. And this was like 2 days after we heard. I was like, I got to do something. I got to do something. I remember that. And they were like, kept putting me on hold. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, you were standing in my kitchen when we
Yep.
made that call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that told OSA, do you know Mike Rinder's blown.
Yeah. The
Mike
outside
Rinder's
world
blown.
knows.
Your commanding officer,
Yep.
guys. Yeah, things aren't all well, so
Yep.
in the world
Yeah. And we
because
know.
he was in England. So, oh my gosh. Okay, so the next one is also you spoke of dogs on the space personal. Were there cats too? Well,
Y-
there was a point when some people could have them, and I rescued a little kitty
Yeah.
and had the cat, and that's the one that security confiscated. I'll never
Yeah.
get over that.
In terms of pets, there were mostly dogs as pets. If there were cats, there weren't that many, but staff did have them. And then we had a huge, what do you call a feral cat issue before the
Yeah.
renovations happened, especially in the old garage. It was quite, I was working with county animal control for months, better part of a year on what to do's and how to do's. And
Yeah.
yeah, that became a big
Yeah.
part of my job early on in security.
It wasn't a good place for pets, that's for sure.
No, no, but
Because
I did.
everybody didn't have time.
Did you know, Amy, that I was the one that organized and got built all the kennels to
You
meet
did tell
county
me that.
standards? Yeah, I was
Yeah,
pretty
when I
happy
was
with that.
complaining about how they
Yeah,
were being treated, you
yeah.
you did tell me that. Yeah. Okay, this one is question. Did the security force ever use dogs in their work? Oh, that's a story for Matt to tell.
Well, during my tenure in security, um, I I was given the liberty to obtain a dog for security purposes, but she turned into my sweet little Kira. I could not see having a dog in security that would sniff out and intimidate my staff. I felt so bad about that, so it just turned into she would go around the property with me, and I just had the greatest time with her up
Mhm. What
until
was what was her name?
Kira.
Kira. Okay.
I got her from she was a purebred German Shepherd in Nikita, and I got her
Mm,
from somebody local out in Homeland, Riverside County, and
yeah.
she was just the greatest dog. I
Yeah.
bought her with my own money, but anyways, it was wanted for us to have security dogs to
Yeah. So
sniff
Matt
out
had a
drugs and
security
stuff.
guard,
Yeah, I know
which was
whiskey.
Whiskey.
Yeah, good old
And
whiskey.
Matt taught Whiskey to grab if a process server arrived and had papers in their hands, he would give Whiskey the signal, and Whiskey would come and take the papers out of his hand and run.
Oh my
So
God.
they couldn't so and so one time there was somebody with an order to get done, and it was like, "You've been ordered to get this done, and you haven't gotten it done." He gave Whiskey the signal, and Whiskey came and took that stupid order out of their
Oh my
hands and
gosh.
ran off with it. Anyway,
I'll
that was
have you
Matt's
know also,
humor.
Amy, that when I had Kira up until I had that light switch happen for me, and then I was placed
Yeah.
under watch 24 hours.
Don't tell me
And
if it's bad, I don't wanna know.
okay, well,
Don't tell me.
yeah, it's just not good news. I suddenly
No,
realized,
no, no, don't
hey, I
say
can
it
have
'cause I
Kira
can't
down here, and yeah, so
can't
I
handle
won't.
it, can't
That
handle
well,
it.
no problem, no
Okay,
problem, no problem.
question. I can't, I just
That's
can't.
okay.
Okay. So anyway, the Int base and all these places are not a place to have animals. David Miscavige had dogs. He had the beagles, and he would have his beagle Jelly come in to the conference room wearing commander stripes, and people were supposed to salute his dog, call his dog sir, and he said that she could sniff out. She could sniff out any out ethics. Like, so one time I walked into the conference room and Jelly was there and she let out a little, little bark or whatever. And I thought, oh, how cute. And I kind of, just didn't pay attention. And I walk in and Dave Miscavige says, she thinks you have something going on or something like this, right?
Yeah,
Out ethics situation going on. And I chuckled and he says, I'm not kidding.
yeah, no surprise there.
Yeah. Oh my
Wow.
God. Mary, yes, obviously, Mary. Did you ever feel bad about making people stay? Yes, that's obvious question, right,
Yep.
Jackson?
God,
Yeah,
that involved high speed chases for hours through 4 different counties. No, three
yeah,
different counties: Riverside, L.A. Yeah, my God.
yep,
Anyways,
yeah. High speed chases. What are you guys doing, Scientology? It's just so bad. I mean, and also here, I'll come back to this one. Also, like Dave Miscavige put our friend Don Jason on the ship Freewinds, locked down, maglock on his door, couldn't get out, and he was under security watch, and he was in the middle of the ocean. How are you supposed to get off of that? But he escaped. He escaped when they went into port, and he figured out a whole thing because they only let him out to have a meal after everybody else's meal was done, and he had to eat it outside. And he made a rig, which was a PVC pipe, and he put little screws in it so that he can use it to go down the hauser line.
Right.
If they
Which
were,
is the anchor
and
lines that holds the boat to the
yeah,
dock.
exactly. And so they had to be in dock. He had to time it because it goes slack and it goes tight and it goes
Right.
slack, and he had to wait until it, and he had to hide this thing. And then all of a sudden just jump over and ride the thing down, and then it gets slack and he's like trying to get, and meantime they're down the gangway, and there's a whole story. I put it on my in my videos. If there's a video on it called Man Overboard. He told his whole story. He used to live with us. He's a good friend of ours. We've known him for many, many, many years. And he was brave, and he got off of that freaking property, that ship. And despite everything, he had nothing. He didn't have they confiscated his passport, everything.
Yeah.
He made people give him a flight out of there. He made the taxi driver leave. They were trying to hold the door open. He slammed it on the people who were trying to stop him from going. He said, "I'm being held against my will. Take me to the effing airport," and they just
Right.
like beeline to the airport.
God,
And
the strength that
anyway.
had to have been there for him to do that, just incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
but anyway, his story's outrageous, and it's on my channel if anyone wants to go and see that. Don Jason, Man Overboard. But anyway, we got him to speak out on the Tampa Bay Times and to tell that story. He
I
did
know,
not
right?
want to, didn't want to have anything to do with Scientology. But because he was friends with us, and we told him how important it is, because it's all about the human trafficking, all about these things that Scientology, the draconian extents that they go to with their security and locking people down and everything. Please tell your story. And we got him to tell his story. So that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yes. So this is from Shelley. She says, you must feel awfully guilty now for making convincing people to come back to that hellhole. Forgive yourself. You were brainwashed as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely aware of that. It fluctuates on how it wears on the soul.
I know.
It's
I know.
a lot of unspoken individuals, the impact I had on a lot of many people's lives. So I
know.
could simply go, yeah, I was brainwashed, but you know what? That doesn't handle for the individuals one-on-one, every single one that I actually brought back against their will. So it's just something to,
I know.
just to come to shake
That's why
hands
you
with.
keep speaking out and
Yeah.
doing what you can do.
Yeah.
That's the main
Speaking
thing.
on their behalf, for the people that,
Yep.
some of them that they still eventually ended up leaving and didn't have a voice themselves. So if
Yeah.
you're out there, feel free to contact me and yell at me and get it out of your system. I'm more than willing to step up to the plate and apologize to you. That's part, I've done that to a few people. Yeah. So,
Oh yeah. Lots of apologies.
yeah.
So Sarah Wynn says it's very brave for Jackson to tell these stories and his part in it. Yes, I agree with that. I knew that this was going to be hard, Jackson, but it's something. Let's get it on record. It's on your channel. It's on my channel.
Yeah.
It's something we both saw, experienced, and it's so important. This person asks, Sunflower says, would this still be happening now?
Oh,
yes.
yeah. No joke.
Ramped up by tenfold.
Yeah, the tenfold.
Yeah, for sure. Question, Jackson, did you ever get in trouble? If so, what did you do? Oh gosh, that's a question I have.
Amy, surprisingly, I never really got in trouble per se.
What?
I know, right? Me of all people, I was in prime position to get in trouble by making a mistake, but I don't know what it was. It was, I just came to recognize that, man, I must be good at my job because, I was also in, a position of trust. And I did come to realize that I kind of had that working for me. So I kind of stuff that I kind of messed on because, there was even a container, a 53-foot seafaring container that you see traveling on a rail line on a train going through town with all these goods in it. There was one of those loaded with the international management's data files are being taken down to the Los Angeles port. We sold it to somebody full of all these church documents. and that was one of the first
What?
worst out security in the history of Scientology that
I
left through my
know.
gates. But yet I didn't get in trouble for it. But that was the day, Andre Tabillon blew the base. But Dave
Yeah,
told me to my face, "This is the worst out security in the history of all Scientology in the Sea Org."
right.
And I was on it with a solution and had it effectively coming back. And I think those were my saving graces. I always did
Yeah.
something about it and solved it right away. So I did get in
Yep.
trouble at times, but nothing significant. I was really surprised,
Yeah.
except for falling asleep on watch early
I'm
on, and I got
surprised.
assigned to the RPF. But
For like how many minutes? You
literally,
didn't.
literally, it was the last. The old security booth. Somebody walking, it was like walking 40 feet. I was sitting there with my head, and I was like, "Oh, there's my replacement coming finally." After being up for 24 hours and having the whole watch all night, just relaxed my eyes. The next thing you know, he's standing in front of the booth, and it was Kurt Hahn. I don't know if you remember Kurt Hahn. Tall, really tall, skinny guy, blonde haired. Anyways, he was one of my guards, and he reported me. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Didn't he? Wasn't he the electrician type of guy on the
Well, there
big
was
tall
Greg
skinny guy?
Brown. Oh no, that was
Oh,
Kirsten.
Greg Brown. I loved him.
You're thinking of Karsten.
Karsten!
Yeah,
Karsten was there for a long time.
yeah,
Greg Brown, he died,
I know.
sadly.
Sadly,
But I really liked him. He was the nicest guy ever.
but because there
It
was
was Karsten who I was
there
thinking
was a
of.
written policy that Rick Gazen drew up, the security directives that we all had to follow when security was first formed, and falling asleep on watch was an RPF offense. So Kurt just, Sea Org members just, I don't know what the drive was that Kurt just couldn't understand. It's like, dude, I saw you at the garage and now you're here. So it was just like 2 seconds still was enough. And I had to stand in front. I got pulled out of bed, had to stand in front of all the international staff with a sign around my neck.
What was the
I
sign?
was thrown in the lake. And
Oh,
then,
God.
yeah, the original lake, the disgusting gooey lake. And then I was running back because Kenny Campbellman took me out there to escort me. I was
Yeah,
thrown in the
good
lake,
escort. That was my escort.
and I knew that I was not going to be allowed to shower, but I outran Kenny back to my berthing so I can get in the shower before he could stop me from taking a shower, just to get some of the shit off of me before I was back paraded out. And I had to stand in front of the messing hall where everybody came to eat. That a sign was made around my neck, and this really crude cardboard piece of wood with a crude chain hanging around my neck. And I just stand there while everybody came in and just looked at me and says, I let the team down. I fell asleep on watch.
What a piece of crap.
Very
Now, you didn't
degrading.
really do the RPF. The RPF is a years-long
I was
year.
sent down to Los Angeles, and
You were?
I was part when we were building Incom. And that's where I found out that later on that Mike was on the same RPF. All these people
Yeah.
we were all on the RPF together. The
That
RPF was
good.
so huge. It was a huge organization. It was well organized, and
Oh, I know.
it was a force to be reckoned with.
So how long were you on that RPF?
Well, long enough to be brought back up to base with the RPF to then begin the renovations for Del Sol as a manpower
That is so
solution.
weird.
How are
What
we
year
going to
was
get
that?
the manpower to build,
Yeah.
to renovate Del Sol? And it was
Yeah.
decided we were going to bring the INT-based staff that were assigned to the RPF that had internet, they
Up.
were cleared to be up, to bring them back up, and they will be the manual labor force to build that. So I was one
And
of
what
those.
year was that? Do you know?
1982, the later part of 82,
82.
early
Right
83.
before I got brought up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but how long did you last on the RPF before you got taken back off? Because you were just a work
Yeah,
labor.
I was reprieved. So
Yeah.
probably no more than 5 months, 6 months.
Okay. Okay. So at least you were
That was my
reprieved.
touch with the RPF. That was my only time on the RPF.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least you got a taste of it. I'm
At
not the
least I
only
did.
one, right?
Yeah. No.
Okay. This person is a super chat. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
This one's Sunflower again says, we all see the care your community give to each other, e.g. Lara FM.
That looks
So much
like
trauma.
sunflower from New Zealand, I'm going to say. Is that correct?
That
Is that what NZ?
I don't know if NZ is New Zealand. Maybe it is. I'm not actually sure. And then this one says from Shelley, government officials are a bunch of wussies.
Yes.
They didn't handle Waco or the LDS situation properly. They need to understand the tactics of Scientology. Victims need to come forward, know your rights. I love that comment, and I highlighted that because of it. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to look at the regular messages. I was over in the starred stuff, so I missed anything that was recently said. But I'm going to quickly go through and see if I can see anything. Um, Thank you for this comment. No sorry needed, Jackson and Amy. Most of us understand why you would call it a church.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I mean, it was like 20 years of our, or 25, three
Yeah.
decades almost of our lives. And then,
Yep.
you know, and so that's how we refer to it when we were there. We know it's a cult,
Mm-hmm.
as we said. But anyway,
An undeniable fact.
I know it's an undeniable fact. Yes, Amy Miscavige is a psychopath and a sociopath. Thank you. I agree. What's so sad is that no one still in the bubble will believe them. Yeah, little Davy should get, I know. Evil incarnate. I know. Well, people do believe us actually, because a lot of people knew us. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. Over the years, people have come to us and said, because I read your book, or because I heard your story, or because I knew you and I saw how you were, before, and I believe you. So that made me start questioning. I have a lot of people, and same with Jackson, that
Yep.
we have helped come out of there and
Which is
leave
great. It's
because of
very
telling us.
rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And also families that really wanted to get, because they believed us. They were never in, but their family were in. They worked to get their family out
yeah.
as well.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
thank Sunflower 71 101
Uh-huh.
for saying that was New Zealand monies.
It was New Zealand. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
Like currency, I
NZ.
guess. That's what you call it.
Yes. NZ. So I don't know what it's called actually.
Hey, there's
So it
Shelley.
says, yep, it says victim survivors need to come forward, be a group. There is strength in numbers. They can't shut you all up.
See, that's
Right.
what's so
Yes.
entertainingly powerful about all this is, there's people sitting at OSA right now watching this video and taking notes and figuring out what they're going to write up for an essay of what we talked about. So it gets forwarded on to the little fake Davy with this fake space Navy, whatever Aaron says. I think that's so funny. But that literally is happening. That the paranoia is very real. It continues on. The compulsion. It's just a compulsory driven drive that they have to document on. I mean, you know what? The church could just suddenly we don't give two hoots and move on, and all this would go away. We would have never spoke out if they just let us live our life. But no.
Yeah.
It was by their choice. So yeah.
Paul Schwash says, the diecast guy says, I pray for all of these lost souls that someday they will see the light. And I
So
pray
do we.
too. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, those
Thank
are our
you for
dear
that.
friends back there.
I know,
Friends.
that we spent decades with.
Yep.
No intimately. I
Well,
know,
we think
and
we
I have
knew each other.
compassion for what they went through
Yeah.
because I went through it myself, but I came through the other end of it. And so now it's like,
And so
what do you
can
do to
they.
cut them
Yeah.
off? Yeah.
And the happiness that results is what they deserve. They're not in a happy place. So yeah. Anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Preaching to the choir.
Preaching to the choir. No, it's okay. I love it. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else. Oh boy, wore combat boots to the beach. What a name. Jackson for the next bachelor. Just the kindest.
Oh my gosh.
I had to
Look at them stilettos in there. Anyways, that's funny.
Yes. Yep. And let's see. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that I haven't shown because I was over in another thing, and plus they're just flying by so fast. This one is 1, 2, 3, something else. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with the world. Hope all the people in danger of getting involved in this are getting in touch with your testimonies on time. I know. I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we're keeping the message out. Very much so. And I like this question, Glenda. Thank you. It says, now I really understand why it takes years for some of you to recover from all this brutality, so much trauma. I'm telling you. I mean, how do you even explain it, Jackson?
I don't know. Well, we just continue to tell the truth. Telling the truth is the way to explain it. I do find amongst the cult world what is in today's society, what could be identified as a cult. Scientology is its unique own cult. It's kind of the next level cult. Is there's cults out there, but Jesus criminy, not it is headed, as long as it's headed by Dave, it will have its own unique grotesque viciousness to it, and it's just surprising. I don't know, I'm just happy that
Right.
I'm not there.
I'm very happy. Yeah, and that we're helping other people not be there.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying this about birthing. I'll have to look it up. We say birthing all the time in Scientology.
yeah, because it's a
You-
nautical reference, and well, it's more of the armed forces, understood in the armed forces, as I understand it. I could be wrong, actually. You know what? I just realized it's birthing is birthing. Birthing is a place in which you rest your head and sleep. So
Yeah.
yeah,
This Hannah says, I find it so upsetting the amount of guilt that Jackson carries for things he wasn't responsible for. He was always better than the job and tried to help people and was trying to save the planet.
that is true.
Yeah.
I don't want people to be left to believe that I carry this black cloud over me. It's just it's I do recognize what I was being asked to do, and there's a clear difference between me as the character of me and how I executed such requests for me to do. I executed them with some compassion. I gotta say, even though what I was doing was grotesquely wrong, I didn't go in there with a Danny Dunnigan attitude. I went in there with me, again, believing that I was there to help the person. So yeah, it's just I just want people to be left to believe that I'm, I have these twitches, unexplainable twitches type thing
Plus, we
about
do
my
help
soul.
each other.
Yeah,
We
we
do
help
help each
each other. I
other.
mean,
Yeah, we talk
shit.
through things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amy knows. I'm not, I guess when you get down to it, and one deeply upsetting thing is the loss of the love of my life. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just we
Yep.
never,
We won't go there. We won't
yeah,
go there because I know how upsetting that is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah.
This person wants to know, Tammy, did you ever turn the other cheek when you knew someone was escaping?
Nope, I couldn't. There's no way of turning the other cheek because there's no way of being able to, like, yeah, they're sick for the day. I mean, I could have done it for 24, 48 hours, leading people to believe, yeah, they're down in isolation, which is where people who had germs would be put. But nope, never a chance of that.
I
Jesus.
know. I knew that was going to be the answer. Fancy Pants wants to know, question, Jackson, I'm born and raised in Portland, live in
Okay.
Vancouver. What would you like to do now for fun in our beautiful area?
I do it all the time. Every day, like today, it's just she's Fancy Pants. I'm assuming, did that say RN? Fancy Pants RN?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
well,
It,
from an industry of my heart's passion for my firefighter thing, I love RNs, and but it is drop dead gorgeous, beautiful up here. I just stand outside. That's enough for me. But I go fishing on the mighty Columbia. We go crabbing out at the coast. I just went out to breakfast with a good dear friend of mine in a very cozy, cool place out in Clackamas, and this place is loaded of beauty and soul soothing activities. So
that's
you can reach
amazing.
out to me and maybe we can hook up sometime and you can introduce me to new ideas or I can do it for you. So
That's
yeah,
amazing. Good. Um, where's Jaeger now? He is still at the int base.
still under
He was
Dave's
He's
command and
enrolled.
control.
Yeah. So I always imagine, so this is from, I can't say your thing. I don't want to waste, I can't say it. Okay, so question. I always imagine int base being something like a prison camp. Can you describe how you rationalize the fact that you had to keep all these people in? I mean, it's easy enough by saying Scientology thinks it's the only answer for salvation of mankind and that the planet's
Yeah.
going to implode
And
unless Scientology does something about it.
I never once thought that I was basically hurting, directing the cows to have one point of exit and exit only for the sole purpose of that. If you want to leave, you can only leave through this one point, and it's got to be through a live human being. It just anybody who chose to leave and wanted to leave or expressed the desire to no longer be there, I just felt that they were a soul who was in need of help, and Scientology technology was there to help better them. Whether they ended up leaving, just leave through the application of this technology to know at least you left in a better condition. And if you don't want to be here, I was of the mind people could leave. It just, there was a standard procedure to follow to leave.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And never realizing there was laws at play too. People had the freedom to no longer, if employment laws, I was not aware of that at all. Never once that ever passed my mind that they have the legal right just to walk out the door and we can't, we have no say in the matter. Never once did I think about that. Holy
It's actually
smokes.
amazing. It's amazing because our minds were so trained, you know.
Well, yeah. God.
I'm just highlighting the ones that say question real quick, and say question. If you have a question, put it in there right now because I'm going to highlight anything that's a question, and we're going to take those up and be done.
Okay.
So they're writing question right now, and so I'm going to go into, and I'm going to stop looking in this chat in just a second. And now I'm going over to stars. So we're going to take up these last things. So question, with all the SP channels out there, and we know that little Davy is aware of what is being discussed, do you think he has tapered off the violence?
No,
I don't know if
because
he's
that would,
capable of tapering.
that would require him, his core value as a person changing.
And
But
his
no.
whole entire mentality.
Yeah, his whole mentality. He just, it's the same wall. It just puts a different coat of paint on it to make it look different, change the appearances. But he still, it's his own. It's a fear factor that he's created internally, and without people running around in fear, he has no control. He has no power. So, that is part of his. That is part of his shtick to keep people in fear.
Yep. Question, is there something in education or anything in your minds that could help to vaccinate people against predatory cults? What should be taught? Oh, or what should be thought? I really like that question.
So do I.
And I think it needs a thorough answer. And I think I should do a video on that.
Yeah, I
because
mean,
I don't think it's a one answer.
one paragraph answer even. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important though. I'm going to make note. This is from Freezunu Project of Parsec. Comment, you are such a good person. I hope you can see not to be so hard on yourself. You did your best to survive in an impossible situation. Your motives were to help people. That is obvious. Yes, I agree with that.
Well, thank you. And, yeah.
Auntie Harju, it says, question, do you think there's something that ought to be taught in schools that would help people not fall victim to predatory cults? And if so, what? Yes, that goes with the other previous question. Yes, for sure. I'm going to do something on that because I really think it's important to educate people on this matter from somebody who's been there. Many of us who have been there. Yes, very much so. Question from Hannah Reynolds. Has Jackson had a good support system or some counseling to help him? He is so kind. He doesn't deserve the weight he is carrying. I don't know, Jackson. You have a support team, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's my buddies. Amy's Matt, Mike, Christy, Claire, and Mark. I mean, these are my intimate buds. We ran the same fields together, and it's like I have a firefighting background too, and that I was able to do as a volunteer firefighter. And from that, I grew a very intimate brother and sisterhood. So, surprisingly, I never once have ever had a nightmare associated with the tragedy that I saw responding to 911 calls, believe it or not. I mean, I could tell you 2 stories that would ruin you could carry with for the rest of your life. But that was as a public servant. The tragedies, that's why we talk to each other. We are our own therapists, it's a beautiful thing. And yeah, so, I do realize it's a quote unquote burden, and just telling these stories makes it appear to you folks that
does help.
Yeah, it does help, but I'm not burdened every day. Believe me, I strive to allow myself to laugh at least once a day and work towards 2 other people helping 2 other people laugh for the day. So, I don't
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Allow yourself to laugh at least once a day. It'll be a good day. And it's even a greater day when you're able to get 2 other people to laugh.
Well, when I have Matt in the house, I don't have any problem with that because he makes me laugh. he comes out with the funniest things.
It's
It's just
incredible. That's always
he
been
is
Matt's
just
character. Just
it
a
always
guaranteed
and
laugh.
it's unusual too. It's not
Yeah.
like, it's not it's something that you're not expecting. That's why it's so funny that
Yeah.
the things that he'll just come out with, and it just cracks me up. And every time I start laughing, I start crying. So that's why I've got tissue boxes in every single corner of my house.
On the ready. Yeah.
Oh, it's so
That's
funny.
incredible. So yeah, that's yeah.
That answers that. Hannah also says, also, does Jackson prefer to be called Gary or Jackson since the latter is his Scientology name? Not
Jackson.
really a Scientology name, is
No,
it?
it's not. It's never. I never consider it my Scientology name, even though that's where the environment in which it originated. But Gary just doesn't sound to me as it should. It sounds foreign to me.
That's why he's Matt, even though that's his Scientology name.
Yeah,
It's not really, we don't associate it like that. It's
we don't
just I've
call him
always
Mark.
known him.
Yeah, it's
Don't
like
call him Mark. Well, his family who lives here calls him Mark, and so I always have to figure out who I'm with and
yeah,
to know what to call him.
yeah. So Jackson is. I always humor myself and tell people that it's my way of avoiding my probation officer because if he's asking for Gary Moorhead, I don't respond to that. So, and no, I don't have a probation officer, and I never will need one. But yeah, it's just Jackson is Jackson, and if you're gonna call me that, I am totally fine with it.
Yes. So Auntie Hard, you asked, how do you choose nowadays what's real or true or untrue and wrong? This person has a lot of really great questions. That's also not a 2-second answer, so I'm not
No,
going to take it up right now, but I love it. And I'm going to go back through and write down anything that I missed. But we've been on here for 2 hours and 41 minutes.
holy
So
smokes! It only seems like an
yes,
hour at the most.
I know.
Wow.
So we're gonna wrap it up there, but everyone, thank you for all your points, and I will go back through and we'll address these points because I think they're really, really, really
Purple
good, really
Groovy.
good points.
Purple Groovy's talking about the Apple Box Boy, but
Yes, Apple Box Boy, and my motto is stay strong, be brave, keep a smile. Corny but true. It's
yep.
very, very true. Very true. Dolphins won for anybody who wanted to know about that. Shelly, thank you for your super chat. I'm taking this up right this second.
Oh, what's this?
First
Oh,
responder family here, retired 9/11 medic.
all right.
Firefighters are very empathetic and are able to
Yes.
compartmentalize things easily in order to deal with them at the appropriate time. Much love and so proud of you both. Thank you.
I shook
Thank
hands with
you.
that reality many a times. So yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Anyway, everybody, let me just, if you look down at the subscribe button, if you're not subscribed to either of our channels, please do so. And also look down at that like button. If it's not pressed, push the like button or smash it. And
Smash it.
you can smash it.
I love
You
that.
can support
Rock
this
slider.
channel by becoming a member or buy me a coffee or purchase any number of the amazing items in my store, amyscoby-shop.fourthwall.com. I've got some fun stuff in there. So check it out. Look at the whole store though, because I think on YouTube it just shows a couple little items, but there's some fun things in there.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to head out, guys.
Oh,
Okay.
sadly not, but we need to.
Yes. Love you, Jackson. Thank
I
you
love
so
you
much
too,
for
Amy.
being here
You know
today.
that.
Yes, I do. I do. And thank you everyone else again for being here. Bye.
Bye bye.